Chapter 246. The Red Eagle paused. Yi Byuki's face was still as calm as water, but his eyes shone brightly from time to time, as if he was recalling something unimaginable. Wu Yen lowered her head and was at a loss. She didn't know whether she should leave or stay here. Hong Ying stared at Yi Byuki and suddenly asked in a low voice, "Yi Byuki, once the Six Directions battle formation in your six brothers' hands is combined, even Qi Lianying of Flying Rainbow Island couldn't do anything to you. It is said that Qi Lianying is an abandoned disciple of a big sect in the East Sea. She is said to be the strongest on the 27 islands. It is also said that she once escaped from a perfected master of the core forging realm." Yi Byuki stared at the Red Eagle without saying a word. The Red Eagle opened its mouth and said something that frightened Yi Byuki even more. "Is the young master a perfected master of the core forging realm?" Wu Yen, who had been thinking about something with her head lowered, suddenly raised her head, glanced at Red Eagle, and then turned to look at Yi Byuki. Her eyes, which had always been submissive, suddenly burst out with an inexplicable brilliance. Yi Byuki stared at Hong Ying blankly for a long time, as if he was recalling something. After a while, he reacted and said coldly, "The young master is not a perfected master of the core forging realm." Then he left. However, when he turned around, there was a trace of confusion in his eyes. It seemed that even he couldn't figure out who Lu Ping was. Wu Yen lowered her head again, and her eyes became gloomy again. It was obvious that she was a little disappointed. Hong Ying looked at Yi Byuki's back thoughtfully, then turned around and left without saying a word. Wu Yen looked at the two people who had left and suddenly didn't know what to do. After a long time, she suddenly patted her head, as if she had remembered that there was something that Lu Ping had asked her to do, so she hurriedly left. In the cultivation room, Lu Ping suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with a dark light, like a pool of unfathomable autumn water. He smiled and then closed his eyes again to cultivate. 2 days later, Lu Ping took out a piece of black wood from his interspatial ring. There was less than a year left until the North Alliance alchemy meet. Perhaps it was time for him to make some preparations. This piece of soul-nourishing wood had been in Lu Ping's hands for several years. After secretly exchanging the spirit forging pill with Taoist master Jiang Xianlin for this profound level middle rank world spirit wood, Lu Ping had been secretly cultivating the splitting soul secret technique. For several years, he had been enduring the great pain caused by the tearing of his divine sense and had been practicing diligently. In order to maintain the advantage of having twice the strength of an ordinary person's divine sense, Lu Ping had practiced a total of 3 sets of secret techniques that could strengthen divine sense. The spirit nourishing technique had increased the range of Lu Ping's divine sense by nearly 1/3. By chance, he had obtained the mysterious leaf grass and successfully refined 12 soul expansion pills, which had increased the range of Lu Ping's divine sense by another 30 meters. The last was the splitting soul technique, which used the soul-nourishing wood as a sustenance, which had increased the strength of Lu Ping's divine sense by nearly 90 meters. After the divine sense contained in the soul-nourishing wood had fused with Lu Ping's divine sense, Lu Ping had to reintegrate and familiarize himself with the newly increased divine sense, so that he could truly command it with ease. After Lu Ping finally completed the splitting soul technique, more than a month had passed. Lu Ping's divine sense could now cover a radius of more than 2 miles. The huge divine sense suddenly spread out, catching Lu Ping off guard. The cultivators on Tingtao Island all felt a huge aura suddenly surround them, and the chill made these cultivators tremble from head to toe. Fortunately, Lu Ping reacted in time. He quickly took full control of the divine sense and began to gather it towards Lu Ping's cave dwelling. However, Lu Ping was once again careless. With such a huge area of coverage, even a first-layer core forging enlightened master could only cover a radius of 1 to 2 miles at most. Although the divine sense was inferior to the divine sense, when a divine sense with such a huge area of coverage was gathered together, the quantitative change finally led to a qualitative change. Above Lu Ping's cave dwelling, a faint blue shadow swayed in all directions, changing into various shapes. A huge pressure suddenly came from above the cave dwelling, and the blood condensation cultivators on Tingtao Island felt as if a heavenly river was collapsing above their heads, and they were about to face a catastrophe. Many blood-refining cultivators who were tending to the spiritual fields or collecting spiritual herbs were directly shocked by the pressure, and they fainted on the ground. The pressure came and went so quickly that a few early blood condensation cultivators thought that there was something wrong with their cultivation. They quickly returned to their cave dwellings to meditate, afraid that they would suffer from qi deviation. Fortunately, all the mid-blood condensation cultivators on the island were working for Hongying and Yi Buki. Only Wu Yan was left on Tingtao Island. Wu Yan immediately jumped up when the aura descended on her. Lu Ping was the one who did all the work, so he was the one in charge. Wu Yan naturally knew what happened. He looked in the direction of Lu Ping's cave dwelling in awe. His heart was already in turmoil. This is the divine sense pressure of a core forging enlightened master. Could it be that young master is really a core forging enlightened master like Hongying guessed? But why is Yi Buki so certain that he is not? Wu Yan's eyes lit up. Could it be that young master had successfully advanced and just reached the gold core realm? But he immediately denied this thought. Advancing to the core forging realm would not only result in a huge whirlpool of spiritual energy, but there would also be astronomical phenomena. However, Tingtao Island was currently calm, so how could there be any astronomical phenomena? Just as Wu Yan was hesitating whether he should go to Lu Ping's cave dwelling to ask for instructions, a voice reached his ears. Wu Yan's expression stiffened. Then, as if he had understood some kind of mission, he bowed in the direction of Lu Ping's cave dwelling, turned around, and left in a hurry. His divine sense sensed that Wu Yan had followed his instructions. Lu Ping heaved a long sigh of relief. He was too careless. He didn't expect his divine sense to have the embryonic form of a core forging enlightened master's divine sense pressure. Fortunately, he was on Tingtao Island. If he was in a densely populated area, he might have caused a lot of trouble. Lu Ping remembered the female alchemist Chu Ting he met in the Li family of the Three Families Island. She had a secret technique that could transform her divine sense into divine sense before she advanced to the core forging realm. However, this kind of divine sense was too weak for a core forging enlightened master. However, this secret technique was extremely precious for a blood condensation realm alchemist. Divine sense was an important obstacle for alchemists to successfully refine half-step core forging realm pills, or even core forging realm pills. Chu Ting was able to successfully refine a 7-step marked pill because of the divine sense into thought secret technique. Lu Ping did not know that divine sense into thought secret technique. The reason why his divine sense could possess the power of divine sense was mainly because he had contracted his huge divine sense to the extreme, so it temporarily possessed the power of divine sense. Lu Ping's intuition told him that his alchemy technique was about to usher in another breakthrough. Could the temporarily possess the power of divine sense allow him to refine core forging realm pills? Just thinking about it made Lu Ping excited. However, now was clearly not the time to concoct a core forging realm medicinal pellet. Not to mention the large number of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs required to concoct a core forging realm medicinal pellet, Lu Ping only had 2 core forging realm medicinal pellet recipes. One was the golden marrow pellet recipe from his alchemist Sheng Tao, and the other was obtained from Fei Ling Island. Lu Ping suddenly remembered that he still had a few purple jade slips sealed with divine sense. Now that his divine sense had been compressed to the extreme, it already possessed some of the characteristics of divine sense. He didn't know if he could unlock the seal, but the result was that Lu Ping was disappointed. Sealing a jade slip with divine sense was a complicated method of using one's divine sense. The current Lu Ping obviously did not have this ability. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A blue streak of light flew out of Soundwave Island. It streaked across the rippling surface of the sea, looking like an inconspicuous wave. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared above the sea. At this moment, the nameless island was no longer as desolate and uninhabited as before. On top of a large stone slope at the entrance to the Land of 100 Flowers, a group of Crystal Palace cultivators in silver robes were guarding the entrance. A streak of light streaked across the sky. The cultivators' expressions changed as they looked at the newcomer. The newcomer was a young cultivator in black robes at the 8th layer of blood condensation realm. When he saw the Crystal Palace cultivators guarding the entrance, a trace of anger flashed across his eyes. However, he still respectfully handed over a jade token and said, "Three Family Alliances Wang family's disciple, Wang Yimu, has come to the land of 100 Flowers to condense the 100 Flowers baleful qi. Senior brothers from the Crystal Palace, please let us pass." Wang family. The leader of the Crystal Palace cultivators played with the jade token in his hand and said playfully, "I really don't know what enlightened Kunshan is thinking. This land of 100 Flowers was discovered by our Crystal Palace's senior brother Qi Shimin and junior brother Wang Yishan. It should belong to our Crystal Palace alone, but the people of Kunshan Town gave up 4 spots to the Wang family to condense baleful qi. What a waste." Wang Yimu retorted, "Senior brother, you are wrong. This land of 100 Flowers was first discovered by our Wang family. It was my cousin Wang Yishan and Wang Yiling who brought senior brother Qi and the other 2 here." Impudent. Is senior brother Qi someone you can call? Wang Yishan is just a disciple of our Crystal Palace. That's why we are brothers. Your Wang family is not a disciple of our Crystal Palace. You are just a small family under the protection of our Crystal Palace. A Crystal Palace cultivator looked down at Wang Yimu and said. Another escape light flashed in the sky. A Crystal Palace cultivator landed. Looking at Wang Yimu and the Crystal Palace cultivators who were in a stalemate at the entrance of the cave, he turned to the leader of the Crystal Palace cultivators and said, "Senior brother Ma, I came here to condense Gang Qi for protection under the order of enlightened Kunshan. It turns out to be junior brother Lin. Junior brother Lin is young and promising. Enlightened Kunshan thinks highly of you. Hurry up and go to the southeast corner. The baleful qi is relatively stronger there." The leader of the Crystal Palace cultivators reminded junior brother Lin fervently. Wang Yimu, who had arrived earlier, had been ignored. Chapter 247. Junior brother Lin nodded and glanced at Wang Yimu behind him. Then he turned to senior brother Ma and said, "Senior brother Ma, you've worked hard. Kunshan Jinren will definitely reward you. Maybe the last place will be yours." Senior brother Ma was overjoyed and said, "Junior brother Lin, please put in a good word for me in front of Kunshan Jinren." Junior brother Lin nodded and entered the cave. "You guys are too much." Wang Yimu looked at the Crystal Palace cultivators standing in front of him and letting junior brother Lin go first. Finally, he said angrily, "I'm here under the order of Wang Huajinren. Why do you keep making things difficult for me?" Senior brother Ma and the others looked at Wang Yimu with a mocking expression and said, "Making things difficult for you? Did we say that you weren't allowed to enter the land of 100 Flowers? So what if I make things difficult for you? Don't forget, this is the territory of my Water Crystal Palace. Your Wang family has been treated so well by my Water Crystal Palace. Not only are you not grateful, you even want a yard after being given an inch?" Wang Yimu knew that they were deliberately making things difficult for him. He took the jade token from senior brother Ma and walked into the cave without looking back. Senior brother Ma's sarcastic voice came from behind, "After you go in, go to the southwest corner. That's where the disciples of the Wang family condense their evil qi." Wang Yimu turned around angrily and said, "You're too much. My cousin Wang Yiheng condensed his evil qi in the southwest corner last time. The evil qi there must be thin. How can he condense it again?" Senior brother Ma replied with a sneer, "Go or not, I think there are still many cultivators in the Wang family who haven't condensed their evil qi yet, right? Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you go to the wrong place, you'll be driven out by the patrolling senior brother." Wang Yimu wanted to return to his encampment and explain the situation to Perfected Wang Hua, but he suddenly remembered Perfected Wang Hua's hint and the envious expressions of his brothers. He glared at senior brother Ma and turned to enter the cave abode. Senior brother Ma and the others exchanged glances and sneered. One of the cultivators behind Wang Yimu reminded him, "Kid, you only have 3 days. After 3 days, regardless of whether you have finished condensing your killing intent or not, you must leave the land of 100 Flowers. If not, we will have no choice but to expel you. Wang Yimu's figure paused for a moment, then he continued to walk into the cave. However, no one realized that while everyone was entangled at the entrance of the cave, a blue figure had already hidden above the entrance of the cave. Then, the blue figure released a fat gray spirit beast from the spirit beast bag. After the blue figure rode on the spirit beast, the man and the spirit beast strangely sank down from the stone slope. The stone art was different from the earth art. Although the two were essentially the same, the stone art was much more difficult than the earth art. Hence, after Debao sent Lu Ping to the cave in the Land of 100 Flowers, he once again exhausted his spiritual energy and laid on the ground, playing dead. The Land of 100 Flowers was still shrouded in a thick fog, but the color of the fog had changed from pink to a faint gray. This was because the cultivators had used a large amount of the 100 Flowers' baneful chi to condense their protective astral energy, leaving only the black 100 Flowers miasma in the fog. That was why the fog had a faint gray color. Lu Ping moved his divine thought and immediately covered most of the Land of Flowers. He cleverly avoided a few patrolling Crystal Palace cultivators and slowly walked toward the depths of the Land of Flowers. At this moment, a divine sense casually swept across the Land of 100 Flowers. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat and he quickly took out 2 stone slabs from his storage ring. He placed one on his left and the other on his right. The divine sense swept past Lu Ping's body calmly, but it didn't find anything amiss. Then, the divine sense withdrew. It seemed that not only were there patrolling cultivators, but there were also cultivators who carefully checked with divine thought from time to time. The cultivators of the Crystal Palace paid a lot of attention to this place. Lu Ping continued to move toward the depths of the Land of Flowers. Every 100 meters, there would be 3 cultivators of the Crystal Palace patrolling. At the same time, in order to avoid the thick fog, they also used divine thought to check the surrounding area from time to time. Lu Ping gradually frowned. Why would the cultivators of the Crystal Palace pay so much attention to a Land of Flowers that had lost its Flower King? Why would they send so many cultivators to patrol it? Lu Ping didn't believe that it was because of the evil chi of the flowers. After Lu Ping and senior brother Qi collected the evil chi, the remaining evil chi was extremely thin. The Crystal Palace wouldn't go through so much trouble just for a Land of Flowers. Moreover, the cultivators of the Crystal Palace were obviously strict on the inside. Apart from senior brother Ma, the 4 cultivators guarding the cave entrance had ordinary cultivations. The cultivators of the Crystal Palace inside the cave were either at the peak of the blood condensation realm or at the level 8 of the blood condensation realm. Spiritual energy rippled from their bodies. Obviously, their foundations were very solid. The 2 stone slabs in Lu Ping's hands were taken from the cave entrance. Not only could they avoid the detection of the cultivator's divine sense, but they could also hide the fluctuations of their Dharma power. Lu Ping used his divine sense and Qian Zhong millet flew out from his storage ring. It slowly opened above Lu Ping's head. More than 200 purple crystal bees swarmed out of their nest. In an instant, they spread out and flew toward the flowers in the Land of Flowers. The appearance of the purple crystal bees quickly attracted the attention of the patrolling cultivators. However, the Land of 100 Flowers was quite vast. With more than 200 purple crystal bees scattered, even if a cultivator accidentally found 1 or 2, it would not arouse their vigilance. The cultivators who found the purple crystal bees would not know that these bees with purple on their heads were the famous purple crystal bees in the cultivation world. Because the purple crystal bees would fly back to Lu Ping from time to time, Lu Ping had to wander around the Land of Flowers in order not to attract the attention of the cultivators in the Crystal Palace. Relying on the 2 stone slabs from the temple and his divine sense, which was far superior to others, he wasn't afraid of being discovered by the cultivators in the Crystal Palace. At this time, Lu Ping's divine sense suddenly discovered that the fog in the Land of Flowers suddenly started to flow slowly. The thin 100-flower evil chi contained in the fog also flowed southwest along with the flow of the fog. If it wasn't for Lu Ping's extraordinary divine sense, he probably wouldn't have discovered this trend. In the southwest, wasn't that the disciple of the Wang family condensing evil chi? He didn't expect this person to have a secret technique that could condense evil qi. Although the 100-flower evil qi in the land of flowers was thin, if one could use a secret technique to condense the evil qi in the land of flowers, it would be enough for a late blood condensation cultivator to condense their earth qi to perfection. Lu Ping didn't mind. Instead, he instinctively avoided the Wang family disciple and wandered in other directions. 2 days later, the purple crystal bees had collected and brewed quite a lot of honey. More than 200 purple crystal bees had all advanced to the first layer of blood refining realm, and more than 20 of them had already reached the peak of the first layer. Lu Ping believed that they would advance to the second layer in the next few days. Only when all the purple crystal bees reached the third layer of blood refining realm would a queen be born. At that time, Lu Ping's bee colony would expand, and only then would he be able to brew purple crystal royal jelly. However, he didn't know how long the millions of flowers in the land of flowers could last for the purple crystal bees. At this time, the 100-flower evil qi around Lu Ping suddenly stopped gathering in the southwest direction. It seemed that the Wang family cultivator who used the secret technique to condense the 100-flower evil qi had finished condensing his earth qi. But then, the Wang family cultivator suddenly disappeared from Lu Ping's divine sense. Chapter 248. Disappeared? Lu Ping was stunned. Lu Ping once again carefully explored the area where Wang Yimu was, but still found nothing. This is interesting. Lu Ping rubbed his chin and suddenly became interested in this cultivator of the Wang family. Lu Ping walked toward the area where Wang Yimu was and superimposed his divine sense. Lu Ping had used this method many times. Although it reduced the coverage of Lu Ping's divine sense by half, he could explore the area more thoroughly. This was also a common method that Lu Ping often used to detect cultivators who use spells such as invisibility. However, Wang Yimu's concealment method was obviously beyond Lu Ping's expectation. Lu Ping intended to superimpose his divine sense again, but in that case, such a thick divine sense would inevitably alert the cultivators of the Crystal Palace who were patrolling nearby. Just when Lu Ping was hesitating whether to use this method, his divine sense trembled slightly and captured some clues. It turned out that the cultivator of the Wang family was walking in the direction where Lu Ping was. Since he had found his trace, Lu Ping naturally would not let him disappear from his divine sense again. He immediately followed from a distance to see what this mysterious person was going to do. At this moment, Lu Ping's divine sense moved again and found that there was another thing moving quickly in front of Wang Yimu, and Wang Yimu was obviously following this thing. This is spirit-seeking mouse? Lu Ping became more interested this time. The other party actually had a spirit-seeking mouse, and this spirit-seeking mouse seemed to have a cultivation of level 9 of blood refining realm. Obviously, it was deliberately cultivated. However, what was the other party looking for? Before this, Lu Ping had asked De Bao to search the land of 100 flowers for about half a day. With De Bao's cultivation of middle-stage blood refining realm, Lu Ping was confident that this spirit-seeking mouse would not find anything that even De Bao could not. In front of him was a huge pit created by Lu Ping after he moved the little peach tree monster to the 1,000-bell millet. The spirit-seeking mouse ran to the bottom of the pit and sniffed around, but it couldn't find anything. It then ran back up dejectedly. Wang Yimu was not discouraged. He stroked the head of the spirit-seeking mouse, took out a pill from his storage bag and fed it. Spirit-addicting fragrance? This surprised Lu Ping again. He did not expect this cultivator from the Wang family to have such a treasure. Could there really be a treasure in the land of 100 flowers that Lu Ping had not discovered before? The spirit-addicting fragrance was actually a type of pill. The greatest use of this pill was to maximize the innate talent of the spirit pet. However, because this pill stimulated the spirit pet's innate talent, this spirit-seeking mouse probably had no hope of advancing to the blood condensation realm in the future. With this spirit-addicting fragrance, this spirit-seeking mouse's innate talent was no less than that of the spirit-seeking mouse in the blood condensation realm. With a thought, Lu Ping grabbed De Bao from the spirit beast pouch again. Poor De Bao had just recovered the spiritual energy it had used up a few days ago. It was sleeping in the spirit beast pouch to replenish its energy. It did not expect to be grabbed by Lu Ping again. De Bao was about to protest, but Lu Ping had already slapped its head first. After a brief conversation with Lu Ping, De Bao's spirit was instantly lifted. What? There is a treasure here that I have not discovered yet. And this treasure might have already been discovered by a spirit-seeking mouse that is far weaker than me and is rushing over now. A spirit-seeking mouse at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm? What a joke! So what if it ate the spirit-addicting fragrance? How could it be stronger than me, a mid-stage blood condensation realm cultivator? De Bao had long forgotten about Lu Ping's annoyance at waking him up. It sniffed the ground with its sharp nose, and as expected, it discovered something. Its 4 legs hidden under its belly moved quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it had overtaken the other spirit-seeking mouse that was moving forward hesitantly. Looks like there really is something good here. After moving forward for a distance, Lu Ping suddenly grabbed De Bao from the ground and looked ahead with a serious expression. Through Lu Ping's divine sense, he suddenly sensed a dozen crystal palace cultivators gathering in front of them. These cultivators were loosely forming a circle, as if they were guarding something inside. Moreover, these cultivators had set up many early warning restrictions in front of them. Once a cultivator touched these restrictions, the Crystal Palace cultivators would notice in advance. Lu Ping naturally knew where these Crystal Palace cultivators were guarding. This was because it was the pit that Lu Ping dug out with the level 9 white jade lotus and the small pool of Kuei water essence. What good things could there be there? Lu Ping frowned and pondered. Right, those few spiritual veins. Lu Ping's eyes lit up, but then he seemed to think that those few mini-spiritual veins were scattered spiritual veins condensed by the power of the entire land of flowers to nourish the king of flowers. After Lu Ping dug out the white jade lotus, these spiritual veins should have slowly dispersed. Could it be that the Crystal Palace cultivators found these spiritual veins and had a way to fix and transfer them? But for these 3 or 4 mini-spiritual veins, the Crystal Palace had mobilized too many people. Just when Lu Ping was puzzled, Wang Yimu, who had been left behind by Lu Ping, finally arrived nearby with the help of his spirit-seeking mouse. Lu Ping smirked maliciously, got out of the way, and quietly hid on the other side of the pit. After a while, he heard the Crystal Palace cultivators shout, "Who is it?" Wang Yimu, who had triggered the inhibition, was like a sensitive bird, desperately trying to escape. With the secret skill of hiding his breath, he instantly lost the perception of divine awareness. However, how could the alarmed Water Crystal Palace cultivators let the matter rest? While this place was not impregnable, despite being guarded by so many Water Crystal Palace cultivators, they had still allowed an outsider to enter. How could the Water Crystal Palace cultivators, who had always prided themselves on being the pride of the heavens, not feel enraged? Out of the 12 cultivators guarding the place, 10 of them rushed out. Thankfully, 2 of them retained some semblance of rationality. They did not forget their duty. Next, however, they saw a golden-colored flying sword fly out from the thick fog. The flying sword left a long trail of light behind it, instantly dazzling the 2 cultivators' eyes. By the time the 2 cultivators were able to adjust to the dazzling golden light, they saw that their respective backs had lost their heads. Lu Ping did not show any mercy when killing the Crystal Palace cultivators. The overflowing sea gang of the North Sea was obviously an extension of the Crystal Palace's power. Their hands were stained with the blood of the North Sea cultivators. Lu Ping reached out and took the 2 storage bags in his hand. He scanned them with his divine awareness. His luck was not bad. There was a top-grade flying sword inside. Although it was a lot worse than the Qinghan sword, it could temporarily make do with it. After all, the golden scale sword was a magic weapon, and it consumed too much magic power to use. The big pit in front of them was left by Lu Ping when he moved the white jade lotus pond. The difference was that at the bottom of the big pit, there was a big hole, or rather, a tunnel, that extended deep into the ground. The tunnel was dark, and only a weak but extremely pure spiritual energy was emitted. De Bao immediately ran to the side of Lu Ping's feet. There was a treasure down there. After pondering it for a moment, Lu Ping decided to head towards the entrance of the cave. When he reached the entrance of the cave, Lu Ping turned around and waved his hand to collect the corpses of the 2 Crystal Palace cultivators. At the same time, he wiped away the blood on the ground. It looked as though all the cultivators guarding the entrance of the cave had gone after the cultivator who had broken into the forbidden area. Although the tunnel was dark, after Lu Ping had moved forward for a certain distance, the stone walls around him gradually shone with a crystalline luster. The spiritual energy swirling around Lu Ping gradually grew thicker as well. Lu Ping was shocked. Could this be? After moving forward for a certain distance, clanking sounds finally came from the depths of the cave, further confirming Lu Ping's guess. Lu Ping used the Mirage Gauze robe to change his aura. He used the 2 stone slabs to prevent his divine awareness from probing and to conceal his magic power fluctuations. At the same time, he used the invisibility technique improved from the invisible sword formula to conceal his figure. Only then did he feel at ease and slowly walked in the direction of the sound. Senior Brother Wen, I'm afraid that no matter how hard the cultivators of the 3 Families Island and the Northern Alliance speculated, they would never have thought that there was not only a land of 100 flowers on this barren island, but also a medium-sized spirit stone vein under the land of 100 flowers. Hee, that's right. Our sect's Firmament Laozu is a grandmaster who surveys all kinds of mineral veins and spirit veins. Through some kind of method, he has long found out that there is a spirit stone vein in the area of the 3 Families Alliance in the Fallen Mystery area. However, he has never been clear about its specific location. That's why our sect tried to break up the 3 Families Alliance and make the Wang family of the 3 Families Alliance join our Crystal Palace. Our purpose is to find a way to set our sect's influence in this area. After all, this area is nominally under the protection of the Northern Alliance. Unexpectedly, we accidentally found this vein in the land of 100 flowers. Thanks to Sage Kunshan's superior wisdom, Sage Wang Hua was able to give this island to our sect with just a few words. They are just some blind cultivators. I think they have reached the early stage of the core forging realm by luck. They can't be compared with Sage Kunshan. It's extremely dangerous. I heard that someone found the King of 100 Flowers in the land of 100 Flowers before Sage Kunshan's disciple, Qi Shimin, and took it away. Fortunately, that person was also blind and didn't know that there was a medium-sized spirit stone vein under the King of 100 Flowers. So that's how it is. They are really blind. Lu Ping gave a wry smile. No wonder the white jade lotus could gather 4 or 5 mini-spirit veins. He had always thought that those spirit veins were formed by gathering the power of the entire land of 100 flowers. Now that he thought about it, this explanation was really a bit far-fetched. After all, the entire land of 100 flowers could condense a pool of Kuei water essence for the white jade lotus. Now that he had come here, how could Lu Ping return empty-handed from a treasure mountain? Rubbing his chin, Lu Ping began to think about how to avoid those cultivators and make a fortune without being noticed. Chapter 249. Since he was already here, how could Lu Ping return empty-handed after entering a treasure mountain? Lu Ping rubbed his chin and began to think about how to make a fortune without anyone noticing. If he wanted to enter the vein, the 2 cultivators guarding the vein were an obstacle. At this moment, someone outside the cave called out, "Senior Brother Wen, Senior Brother Tian, what's the matter down there? What's wrong? What happened?" The 2 cultivators guarding the vein knew that there were 12 cultivators guarding the cave entrance, but now they asked if something happened in the vein. Obviously, there was something wrong on the ground. The 2 hurriedly ran out of the cave and asked. "Here's my chance." Lu Ping was delighted. He grabbed DeBayo's whiskers and leaned against the stone wall. 1 person and 1 mouse once again crashed into the stone wall. The 2 Crystal Palace cultivators who ran over did not notice that Lu Ping was hiding behind them. After the 2 passed by, Lu Ping came out of the wall with DeBayo and quickly walked toward the vein. Spirit stone veins were a peculiar existence. The peculiar thing was that under certain conditions, they could be regenerated, and the cycle of this regeneration was generally about 500 years. Therefore, whenever a spirit stone vein was discovered, cultivators would often estimate the reserves of the spirit stone vein and set a daily mining volume with a cycle of 500 years. Then, mining and backfilling would be carried out at the same time. This way, the spirit stone vein could continuously produce a fixed amount of spirit stones every day. Of course, all of this was under an ideal situation. The process of mining and self-regeneration of the spirit stone vein was always accompanied by the dissipation of spirit chi. Therefore, in fact, the spirit stone reserves in the spirit stone vein would eventually become less and less. It was just that this time would be delayed for a long time. And the other dissipated spirit chi, under the magical effect of nature, would form new spirit veins again in a specific environment for cultivators to rediscover and excavate. This medium-sized vein had a total of 20 veins. Now, only 4 had been mined. The spirit stone miners inside were all blood refining realm cultivators, and the clanking sounds were everywhere. It seemed that the Crystal Palace's plan was to mine every 4 veins in 100 years. After backfilling, they would mine the other 4 veins. After this cycle, exactly 500 years would have passed, and the first 4 veins could be mined and backfilled again. Without needing Lu Ping's instructions, De Bao stepped forward and chose a vein that it thought was of the best quality among the 16 unmined veins. Then, it plunged into it. Just as the 2 Crystal Palace cultivators outside the cave were about to return, De Bao finally came out of the vein and disappeared again with Lu Ping. Those fellows outside are truly good-for-nothings. To think that they would allow a cultivator to reach the entrance of the cave before realizing it. Although the spirit stone mine is not exposed, our Crystal Palace has made a great discovery on an island within the 3 Families Alliance's territory. This news will likely spread throughout the entire Fallen Pocket Zone in no time at all. Senior Brother Wen's face was extremely ugly to behold. The Wang family is so bold to set a trap for the Crystal Palace. Aren't they afraid of being exterminated? Brother Tian scolded fiercely. The Wang family may not have the courage. This disciple of the Wang family must have acted on his own. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that someone is impersonating him. Brother Wen thought for a while and calmly analyzed. At this moment, a voice-transmitting talisman floated in front of Brother Wen. He grabbed the talisman and listened to it for a while. Then, his expression changed. He snorted coldly and passed the talisman to Brother Tian next to him. When Senior Brother Tian heard the message from the voice transmission talisman, he mumbled, "How could they have escaped? Even if the other party had someone to support them, how could so many brothers not be able to stop 2 people?" Brother Wen said coldly, "After they left the nameless island, they didn't return to the Bright Moon Island where the Wang family is stationed. Instead, they fled in the direction of the 27th outer island. Some brothers have already chased after them. Brother Ma, who is on duty there, has already informed Kunshinjinren. I think Kunshinjinren will catch up with them soon. Once they are caught, let's see what the Wang family will say." Brother Tian said gloatingly, "Brother Ma is doomed. He not only let the spy in, but also failed to stop them. I heard that he has long wanted to condense the 4 spots for the 100 flowers killing aura. Kunshinjinren is also considering it. Now, not to mention the spots, he will have to face the wall for at least 10 years. If the news of the medium-sized spirit stone vein on the island is leaked, he will die." De Bao was indeed a master of digging holes. In a moment of effort, he had made a space for Lu Ping to squat down in the vein. Although there was a stone wall between them, and Lu Ping's spiritual sense was greatly weakened, but Lu Ping still clearly heard the conversation between Brother Wen and Brother Tian. However, Lu Ping didn't care about this now, because all his attention was on the spirit stone vein in front of him. A medium-sized spirit stone vein was already a mixture of low-grade and medium-grade spirit stones. But more importantly, a medium-sized spirit stone vein would occasionally be mixed with some high-grade spirit stones, although the probability was very small. For the sake of long-term considerations, cultivators generally planned a spirit stone vein for a period of 500 years, and then used this to determine whether the output of the spirit stone vein was small, medium-sized, or large-scale. But this didn't mean that the spirit stone vein couldn't be overexploited. On the contrary, once overexploited, a small spirit stone vein could easily produce the output of a large-scale spirit stone vein in a short period of time, but the consequence was that the spirit stone vein was likely to be exhausted after a few decades. What Lu Ping wanted to do now was to exhaust the goose that laid the golden eggs. The reason was very simple. In the game of the various forces in the East China Sea, his name would not be on the list of the owner of this spirit vein. Since it was not mine, why should I care about him? Lu Ping's idea was very simple. He asked De Bao to continuously dig several cave spaces along this spirit vein, and then let his pets go together. In each space, he let two spirit beasts dig spirit stones from two opposite directions. This way, it would be fast, the harvest would be big, and it would save time. His 6 demonic beasts, plus Lu Ping, made a total of 7 laborers. In this spirit vein, apart from cultivating every day, they were constantly digging spirit stones. In order not to arouse the vigilance of the cultivators in the Crystal Palace, Lu Ping deliberately let De Bao continue to dig several deep holes in the depths of the spirit vein. In this way, even if there was a core forging sage to investigate, Lu Ping would not be afraid of being discovered. Lu Ping opened the Qian Zhong Su, so that his demonic beasts could freely enter and exit this spatial artifact. Then, a steady stream of spirit stones was piled up in a corner of the artifact. However, Lu Ping specifically told them that once they found a high-grade spirit stone, they must give it to him alone. Lu Ping put it in his own storage ring. The use of high-grade spirit stones was far above its value. In a trance, half a year had passed. Suddenly, there was a rumbling vibration on the ground, and a strange force was being transmitted along the spirit vein, as if to completely seal the area where the spirit vein was located. Chapter 250. Oh no, this is the pulse-suppressing spirit-locking great array. Did they finally finish setting it up? Without thinking, Lu Ping took back the Qianzhong millet, and then rolled the 5 spirit beasts into the spirit beast bag. Riding on De Bao, they flew to the ground. The pulse-suppressing spirit-locking great array was used to confine the earth veins, to prevent the loss of spiritual qi, and to prevent theft and destruction from the outside. This kind of great array was usually used by big sects to confine spiritual mines or earth veins. Once this kind of great array was used, it basically meant that the sect had declared the ownership of the spiritual mine or earth veins. Of course, Lu Ping knew how important a medium-sized spiritual stone mine was to a sect, so this great array would definitely be used. However, the arrangement of the pulse-suppressing spirit-locking great array was really complicated and delicate, and most of the materials used were of high grade. In addition, the Crystal Palace was so far away from the fallen secret land. In Lu Ping's opinion, it would take at least a year for the great array to be set up. By then, he could naturally leave in advance without being noticed. After all, Lu Ping had underestimated the power of the Crystal Palace, the giant of the East Sea. As Lu Ping broke away from the shackles of the great array, he was secretly anxious. This kind of great array required the help of spiritual masters in the core forging realm. If he was discovered by a spiritual master in the core forging realm, Lu Ping would really die here. Lu Ping emerged from the ground with 2 big slates on his head, and happened to encounter a divine thought wandering nearby. Cold sweat suddenly flowed down Lu Ping's back, and he stood there holding the 2 slates, not daring to move. The divine thought wandered around for a while and then withdrew, not finding Lu Ping on the side. Lu Ping managed to escape death, but he didn't dare to put down the stone slab in his hand for even a second. Along the way, he evaded a few groups of patrolling disciples from the Crystal Palace. Clearly, these disciples didn't do their best to investigate. After all, there were several core forging realm enlightened masters here today. Who would dare to come and seek death? Lu Ping didn't have the time or mood to sigh about his good luck. He opened Qianzhong millet and called back all the purple crystal bees that were still lingering in the land of 100 flowers. He quickly approached the entrance of the cave with De Bao. Naturally, he wouldn't go out directly. Instead, he grabbed Debeo from the stone wall at the entrance and escaped to the stone slope outside. Fortunately, Debeo had been cultivating and digging spirit stones in the spiritual stone vein for more than half a year. His cultivation was close to the blood condensation realm, and his spiritual energy was much stronger. Otherwise, Lu Ping would have to find a way to help. Debeo up the spiritual energy first. On the big stone slope of the nameless island, a man and a mouse slowly rose up from a big rock. This time, however, they were not so lucky. In addition to the 4 cultivators from Water Crystal Palace, there were also 5 to 6 cultivators in different attire. The narrow entrance of the cave was simply incapable of accommodating so many people. Thus, the cultivators who were familiar with each other spread out to chat with each other. What was even more unfortunate was that a man and a woman, who seemed to be in love, happened to be standing face to face in front of the big rock that Lu Ping appeared on. When Lu Ping rose from the big rock, he happened to be standing next to the 2 cultivators who were in the middle of a deep conversation. The 2 were shocked by Lu Ping's strange method. The 2, who were immersed in the river of love, obviously lost the reaction that a cultivator should have. Just when the 2 realized what they should do, the golden scale sword had already slashed their throats. The fluctuation of spiritual energy finally alerted the cultivators nearby. Everyone's divine sense swept over to investigate. Lu Ping used the mirage gauze robe to cover his face and muddle his aura. He used the 2 big stone slabs to block the divine sense and divine sense from locking onto him. Then, he used the invisible sword art to conceal himself. Finally, he used the magic cloud to fly away from the island. Only heaven knew how many forces and core forging enlightened masters were on the island. Who dares to behave atrociously here? An angry roar pierced through the air and a domineering divine sense had already arrived. However, when the divine sense passed through Lu Ping's body, it was as if the divine sense had punched nothing but air. There was no force behind it at all. Lu Ping released the 3 spirit snakes from the spirit beast bag. Samling worked together with Lu Ping's crazy output of spiritual energy. In the blink of an eye, the magic cloud had already flown several miles away. Just when a black-faced Taoist jumped out of the cave on the nameless island, Lu Ping's shadow was already nowhere to be seen in the sky. At this moment, a muffled bang suddenly came from under the feet of the black-faced Taoist. The entire nameless island shook, and a tsunami tens of feet high rose from the sea, rushing towards the island. The black-faced Taoist impatiently waved his hand, and the raging waves suddenly calmed down. The vein suppression spirit lock array was finally completed. The middle-sized spirit vein was imprisoned inside and became the property of all the forces present. They no longer had to worry about anyone coveting this spirit vein. The black-faced Taoist was about to give chase when a faint voice came, "Brotherly, there is no need to chase. This person's spiritual energy is even stronger than Qi Lianying's. I'm afraid it is already too late to catch up." Lu Ping had changed directions several times during his escape. At this time, he was nearly 100 miles away from the nameless island. After landing on a coral reef on the sea, Lu Ping fiercely gasped for breath. Lu Ping had always been proud of his spiritual energy against cultivators of the same level as him. But during this period of time, he had repeatedly shown signs of lacking spiritual energy. This really made Lu Ping feel helpless. Lu Ping took out a spiritual recovery pill from his storage ring and swallowed it. Only then did he return to Soundwave Island. When he returned to the cultivation room, Lu Ping did not alert anyone on the island. Lu Ping used his divine sense to scan the island and found that Wu Yan and Hong Ying were on the island. He then sent a voice transmission to summon the 2 to his cave abode. While the 2 were walking, Lu Ping opened the 1000-bell millet to check his harvest for the past 6 months. He saw a group of amethyst bees rebuilding their nest. Only then did Lu Ping notice that the swarm of amethyst bees had grown to the size of an egg. More than 200 amethyst bees had all reached the 2nd layer of blood refining realm. The leading amethyst bees had broken through to the 3rd layer. They were only one step away from the birth of a queen bee. Under the peach tree in the middle of the 1,000-bell millet, a pile of shining spirit stones was neatly stacked into several piles. Among them, there were 15 piles of low-grade spirit stones, each pile was 100,000 spirit stones. There were 5 piles of mid-grade spirit stones, each pile was 2,000 spirit stones. In total, there were 2 million spirit stones. Lu Ping was dumbfounded. Wasn't it a bit too harsh? However, he and his 6 spiritual pets still spent half of their time on cultivation every day. After all, although the concentration of spiritual energy in the spirit mine was not as high as that of a mid-grade spirit vein, it was not too far off from a small-grade spirit vein. Of course, Lu Ping did not include the 50 high-grade spirit stones in his storage ring. At this time, Wu Yan and Hong Ying had already entered the cultivation room. When Wu Yan saw Lu Ping, she happily said, "Young master, you're finally back." During this period of time, the Three-Island Alliance has been in a precarious situation, which directly affected the 27 outer islands. Without young master, our 3 islands have lost their backbone. Although Hong Ying did not show his emotions on his face like Wu Yan, his expression also looked a lot more relaxed. It was obvious that these days had not been easy for them. Chapter 251. This time, Lu Ping used the 1,000 spiritual wine to serve them. Lu Ping originally planned to use 500-year-old spiritual herbs to brew a new 100 spiritual wine, but he couldn't bear to do so. During this trip to the Nameless Island, Lu Ping had concocted many pills for the Blue Phoenix and Samling, so he had used up most of the spiritual herbs he had. So, he could only use the 1,000 spiritual wine brewed from hundreds of century-old spiritual herbs to serve them. Hong Ying drank half of the cup of 1,000 spiritual wine. As soon as the wine entered his stomach, it turned into pure spiritual energy and quickly merged with his arcane energy, causing his arcane energy to surge violently. Hong Ying shouted, "This is really good wine." Wu Yan seemed to be a little drunk. She drank a mouthful of 1,000 spiritual wine, and her face turned slightly red. Lu Ping took out 2 large gourds and placed them on the wooden table. This 1,000 spiritual wine is very useful for blood condensation cultivators to recover their spiritual energy quickly. Although it is not as good as spirit recovery pills, it is much cheaper. I noticed that the fallen secret land is not peaceful recently. Distribute these 2 gourds of 1,000 spiritual wine to the mid-blood condensation cultivators. If they are in danger, they will have a backup plan. Wu Yan took the 2 gourds of 1,000 spiritual wine. These 2 gourds were the last of Lu Ping's stock. The spiritual energy in the wine was negligible to Lu Ping, but for the mid-blood condensation cultivators, it might be a life-saving measure. Lu Ping turned to Hong Ying and asked, "What happened in the fallen secret land in the past half a year? Why didn't I see Yi Buki on the island?" Hong Ying pondered for a moment, as if he was organizing his words. Then, he said, "Young lord, the alliance of the 3 clans is about to collapse. I'm afraid the 27 outer islands will be affected as well. Qi Lianying has already escaped. Her 5 islands are now occupied by other cultivators who have entered the fallen secret land." Lu Ping wasn't surprised at all. What happened half a year ago? Hong Ying pondered for a moment, then said, "It's hard to believe. Half a year ago, someone who claimed to be a disciple of the Wang family was rescued by Qi Lianying. He claimed that the cultivators of the Crystal Palace occupied the Nameless Island in the middle of the arcane realm because they had already discovered a medium-sized spirit stone mine there. Their choice to cooperate with the Wang family was just to find a legitimate excuse to enter the Northern Alliance's territory. When the news spread out, many of them did not believe it. Due to that, the Wang family simply announced that they were expelling him from the Wang family. However, the news quickly spread through the Fallen Pocket Zone. Additionally, there were many different versions of the story. Even the cultivators outside the Fallen Pocket Zone found out that the Crystal Palace was preparing to plunder a mid-sized spirit mine belonging to the Northern Alliance. The Crystal Palace repeatedly said that it was just a rumor, but there were still cultivators who tried to take the risk to investigate the Nameless Island. However, they were quickly discovered and killed by the cultivators of the Crystal Palace. Not only did the Crystal Palace's ruthless methods not work, but the Crystal Palace's strict defense of the nameless island seemed to prove that the rumor was true. At that moment, the cultivators of the Crystal Palace, led by a perfected cultivator of the core forging realm, suddenly attacked Flying Rainbow Island, where Qi Lianying was, and the other 4 islands that she occupied. However, they found that the 5 islands were empty, and Qi Lianying was nowhere to be seen. The Crystal Palace quickly issued an arrest warrant for Qi Lianying in the East Sea. A perfected cultivator of the Crystal Palace received a secret report and intercepted Qi Lianying, who was hiding in a sea area outside the Fallen Pocket Zone. However, after fighting for a while, the perfected cultivator couldn't do anything to the female cultivator at the peak of the blood condensation realm. Qi Lianying escaped from his hands and disappeared. This battle made Qi Lianying famous in the territory of the Northern Alliance. It seemed to have overturned the invincible image of the Crystal Palace in the hearts of the cultivators of the East Sea. More and more cultivators swarmed into the sea area of the 3 families and appeared around the nameless island. At the same time, they appealed to the Northern Alliance to uphold justice. After all, the nameless island was within the territory of the 3 families and was under the protection of the Northern Alliance. Now, the Crystal Palace was like a dragon crossing the river, but they were targeting the local snake of the Northern Alliance. This was something that the cultivators of the Northern Alliance couldn't tolerate. The Wang family finally realized that the cultivators of the Crystal Palace obviously had an ulterior motive for getting close to the Wang family. They were secretly planning to sell the mineral vein. Once the Crystal Palace monopolized the mineral vein, the Wang family would definitely be the first target for the Northern Alliance to vent their anger. At that time, the Crystal Palace would probably push the Wang family out as a scapegoat. After the Wang family woke up, they quickly sent perfected Wang Hua to question the perfected Kunshan of the Crystal Palace about whether there was a mineral vein on the nameless island. If it was a false rumor, they should contact all forces to check the island as soon as possible and clarify the truth. The Wang family's betrayal showed the cultivators of the Northern Alliance that they had been deceived and allowed the Wang family to return to the arms of the Northern Alliance. However, the Crystal Palace was caught unprepared. With the Wang family taking the lead, the Zhang family, who had always been the spokesperson of the Northern Alliance, together with the Li family, proposed to the Crystal Palace that they should withdraw from the nameless island and the 3 forces should cooperate to investigate the mineral vein thoroughly. Then, all the forces of the Northern Alliance asked the Crystal Palace to withdraw from the occupied Northern Alliance islands. Then, the Northern Alliance formally negotiated with the Crystal Palace, asking for a thorough investigation of the medium-sized mineral vein on the nameless island. They would send perfected cultivators in the core forging realm to the island to take charge of this matter. The 2 giants of Donghai finally began to confront each other head-on. However, this was the hinterland of the Northern Alliance after all. The Northern Alliance had the geographical advantage. Although the Crystal Palace was powerful, several other forces in Donghai also followed the request of the Northern Alliance. The Crystal Palace could not do anything alone. In the end, they retreated and admitted that they had accidentally discovered the medium-sized mineral vein on the nameless island, but denied that it was a deliberate plot. At this point, the incident had come to an end. As for whether the Crystal Palace had accidentally discovered it or a deliberate plot, every practitioner naturally knew clearly in their hearts. The ending incident was about the distribution of the spiritual stones after the mining of the mineral vein. The Northern Alliance naturally took the majority, followed by the Crystal Palace. All the forces were beating the drum loudly. Of course, they also wanted to share the benefits. With the intervention of the Northern Alliance, the arrangement of the pulse-suppressing spirit-locking matrix was naturally fast. It was completed in only half a year and the matrix began to be activated. However, they did not expect that a practitioner had already sneaked into the mineral vein, dug out millions of spiritual stones from one of the mineral veins, and escaped when the perfected cultivators were busy activating the matrix. Now the practitioners in the fallen secret land were most concerned about 2 things. One was whether Qi Lianying could continue to escape from the arrest of the Crystal Palace, the other was how many spiritual stones the mysterious practitioner had stolen from the mineral vein. After listening to Red Eagle's narration, Lu Ping frowned and thought for a while. It seemed that this time the Crystal Palace should have fallen into a trap. Qi Lianying could escape from the pursuit of a perfected cultivator in the core forging realm, perhaps because she was really powerful. However, it was impossible for her to escape from the pursuit of the Crystal Palace without a huge force behind her to cover her tracks. In addition to the rumors, it was obvious that someone was behind all this. However, Lu Ping didn't know how this faction discovered the mid-sized spirit mine on the Nameless Island. He didn't think that this faction would use a mid-sized spirit mine in advance to set up a trap that could at most annoy the Crystal Palace, but wouldn't be able to hurt the Crystal Palace. Lu Ping suddenly thought of the Li family. There should be a mysterious force behind this family. During the underground trade fair on Sanjia Island, through the mysterious female alchemist Chu Ting, they schemed against the Crystal Palace and expelled the practitioners of the Crystal Palace from the island. Moreover, by chance, Lu Ping also knew that the Li family and the Crystal Palace had a lot of hatred. When Lu Ping first arrived at the East Sea, the practitioners in a secret stronghold of the Crystal Palace were all killed by Li Shouju, the eldest daughter of the Li family. Young master, seeing that Lu Ping was thinking about something, Red Eagle could not help but remind him, after the incident with Qi Lianying, the three families' alliance has now strengthened the management of the 27 outer islands, especially the Wang family. Not only did they offer more offerings, but they are also preparing to reorganize the forces for their own use. They are lobbying everywhere. Lu Ping said indifferently, the Wang family is afraid. This time, in order to protect the family, the Wang family attacked the Crystal Palace, but they also did not please the Northern Alliance. Now the Wang family is in a difficult situation. What they are most afraid of is the Zhang family and the Li family working together to suppress them. The Zhang family and the Li family will not sit by and do nothing since they are so eager to gather their forces. Red Eagle said again, after Qi Lianying left, the 5 islands became empty, causing many forces to fight for them. Many practitioners who have just entered the fallen secret land also joined in. The outer islands are in chaos now. Yi Buki and his brothers are always outside to patrol the 3 islands, in case someone is plotting against them. Lu Ping's eyes narrowed. Someone is plotting against us. Red Eagle said hesitantly, I'm not sure yet, but there are indeed a few practitioners who have not yet established a foothold near Hearing Waves Island, Red Shadow Island, and Sunglow Island. It is better to be safe than sorry. Lu Ping chuckled coldly and didn't say anything else. Red Eagle was also a person who had experienced life and death. Just when Lu Ping sneered, he clearly felt a bone-chilling coldness from Lu Ping. Red Eagle's heart trembled. How many people must have died in his hands to form such a strong evil qi? When night fell, Yi Buki returned from patrolling the islands. Lu Ping inadvertently asked him about the practitioners who had just entered the fallen secret land. Which of them were spying on Hearing Waves Island, Red Shadow Island, and Sunglow Island? After getting the answer, Lu Ping didn't say anything more. He went back to his cave residence to cultivate. In the darkness of the night, he could vaguely hear the crisp chirping of birds and the rustling sound, as if a breeze was blowing the green grass. The next day, after patrolling the islands, Yi Buki reported to Lu Ping, last night, several groups of foreign forces were attacked by demonic beasts. The leaders of those groups were all killed. One had his head smashed, one had his heart torn, and 3 seemed to have been poisoned to death. One's whole body was frozen and would shatter at the slightest touch. One's whole body was rotten beyond recognition. The last one's bones and flesh were separated and became soft. Chapter 252. The mysterious deaths of the 5 leaders had startled all the forces on the outer islands. They had all calmed down, and the 27 outer islands seemed to have returned to their former tranquility. Hong Ying looked at Lu Ping with more respect. He wondered how many more trump cards this young lord had up his sleeves. Yi Buki didn't say anything, which made the Red Eagle secretly exclaim that Yi Buki's temperament was higher than his. However, he didn't know that Yi Buki had already become immune to these things after seeing more shocking things. The day of the Northern Alliance Elixir meeting was getting closer and closer. Lu Ping arranged for Yi Buqi and his brothers to look after his home, while he took only the Red Eagle and Wu Yan with him, and set out for Heaven Yuan City. There was no teleportation formation in the fallen secret area to Heaven Yuan City, so the Red Eagle suggested that the three of them should first go to a city on a medium-sized island. Every island of the Northern Alliance had a teleportation formation that was connected to Heaven Yuan City. They only needed to pay some spirit stones, and they would be able to reach Heaven Yuan City quickly. However, Lu Ping didn't agree. After he had arrived at the East Sea, he had only traveled near the three cities and the fallen secret area. He hadn't enjoyed the scenery of the East Sea, so he insisted on flying to Heaven Yuan City on his flying device. The Red Eagle and Wu Yan naturally didn't dare to argue with him. The three of them drove their flying devices, and enjoyed the scenery of the East Sea along the way. With the Red Eagle as an experienced horse, Lu Ping had a good time on the way. After 10 days, the scenery along the way had opened up Lu Ping's mind. He couldn't help but let out a long whistle. The sound waves spread out, and the calm sea of the East Sea was suddenly covered with countless waves, as if they were responding to his whistle. Every time a wave flew up, Lu Ping stretched out his hand and pointed at it. The wave suddenly turned into a sparkling water sword, or like a fish in the water, full of natural intelligence, dancing on the surface of the sea. 324 waves rose in a row, forming 324 running and playing swordfish on the surface of the sea. Sometimes they gathered on the surface of the sea, and sometimes they fled. They were having a lot of fun. Wu Yan did not know the meaning behind it, only feeling that it was miraculous. Hong Ying, on the other hand, had a mixture of shock and perplexity on his face. He knew that Lu Ping was displaying an extremely profound sword technique, and this sword technique was most likely related to the legendary sword intent. However, as for the specifics, he did not know. Red Eagle shook his head with a bitter smile. Back then, he had unintentionally comprehended force, and after gradually understanding and grasping force, he could be considered an expert among his fellow rogue cultivators. And this young man in front of him, who knew how much younger than him, had clearly comprehended concept to an extremely high level. This also strengthened Red Eagle's determination to follow Lu Ping even more. 324 Psychic Sword Lights. Lu Ping smiled slightly in his heart. His sword technique had improved by another level. Lu Ping loosened his hands, and the frolicking swordfish on the surface of the sea jumped into the sea and disappeared. Lu Ping clapped his hands, turned around and said with a smile, "Let's go." The three of them each had their own thoughts. After a moment, Lu Ping suddenly stopped on the surface of the sea. Red Eagle and Wu Yan did not know what was going on, so they also stopped. Lu Ping muttered to himself for a moment, then turned around and said, "Red Eagle, Wu Yan, the two of you go first. Wait for me at Shenyuan City's listening sound building. I met an interesting person, so I'll go take a look first." Red Eagle and Wu Yan wanted to say something, but Lu Ping smiled and said, "Don't worry, wait for me in the city. I'll be there in a day or two at most." The two of them were helpless. They knew that if Lu Ping really had something to do, the two of them would most likely not be able to help. They could only say, "Be careful." The two of them left first. Seeing that the two of them had gone far away, Lu Ping's expression became slightly more serious. He turned around and flew towards the sea in the west. In the sky a few miles away from where Lu Ping and Red Eagle parted ways, a battle was in full swing. A red-robed core-forging enlightened master was chasing and attacking a green-robed woman. The woman tried her best to defend herself, but she was only at the peak of the blood condensation realm. Under the red-robed Daoist's attacks, she was in a difficult position. She could only defend but not fight back. "Ha, Qi Lianying, didn't you say that you could escape from a core-forging enlightened master? Why aren't you running? Why aren't you running? Today, I will capture you and let you know the prestige of the Crystal Palace. No one has ever escaped from the Crystal Palace's punishment. Let's see your stinking fart." The green-robed girl, Qi Lianying, was very fierce. Her first words made Lu Ping, who was hiding in the distance, look at her in a new light. If it weren't for the fact that I was in a hurry and fell into your trap due to my carelessness, do you think you could stop me with your core forging stage cultivation? Hee, what do you mean by trap? Your enemy recognizes you, but you don't recognize your enemy. You deserve to be injured by my palm. Do you think I have to jump in front of you and say, I am the Crystal Palace's Hongshirkue, and I want to capture you right now? Then I'm the one who's crazy. Hongshirkue had the upper hand, so he was not in a hurry. He only used the 2 jade rings. One emitted rings of fire, while the other emitted rings of ice. The ice and fire rings flew towards Qi Lianying one after another. Once there were too many of them, she would not be able to break them in time and would be trapped inside. Hongshirkue had made up his mind to capture Qi Lianying alive. Qi Lianying used 2 sleeves, one green and the other red. As she waved them, they looked like 2 spiritual snakes. Even Hongshirkue was a little afraid of them. Qi Lianying, as long as you surrender and tell us who the mastermind is, I, Hongshirkue, can guarantee that our sect will spare your life. What do you think? Hongshirkue tried to break Qi Lianying's will to fight with words after failing to do so. Hee, if you spare my life, will I serve you in the future? Qi Lianying was already covered in sweat, but she still joked without hesitation. That's not necessarily impossible as long as you tell me who the mastermind is. Hongshirkue naturally wouldn't take it seriously and just sneered. What do you mean? I am just a guest behind the scenes, a servant under your skirt. Why would I need someone to order me around? Qi Lianying was as fierce as ever. Then don't blame me for being rude. Hongshirkue was not easy to deal with. He had already prepared a set of killer moves while he was talking. Ice and fire rings, chilling and hot 9 heavens. Hongshirkue shook his hands, and 3 rings flew out from each of the ice and fire rings. Each ring suddenly fused together, but strangely, there was no repulsion between them. The combined ice and fire rings had already flown above Qi Lianying's head, trying to trap her. Snake dance. Qi Lianying's face was solemn. Her green and red sleeves flew out like 2 slithering spiritual snakes. After one attack, she retreated and waited for an opportunity to strike again, blocking the ice and fire rings above her head. Suddenly, Qi Lianying's face changed, and she shouted, "Oh no!" Her sleeves fluttered in the wind as she tried to protect herself. However, the ring of ice and fire above her head suddenly exploded. Most of the scattered ice and fire Jin Yuan was blocked by Qi Lianying, but some still managed to hit her body. Her hair was immediately disheveled, and she was in a sorry state. Qi Lianying shouted, "Hongshirkue, I want you to die a horrible death. Hee, you have no chance." Hongshirkue pointed his finger, and the 2 ice and fire rings flew toward Qi Lianying again. Qi Lianying's face was pale, and her face was full of despair. At this time, a magnificent golden sword Qi suddenly appeared in the sky. In the body of the sword Qi, countless sword Qi swam back and forth like fish, but it also emitted a strong sharp Qi. True Essence 1 Sword Qi. Chapter 253. Unity of Practice and Sword. Hongshirkue turned pale with fright. The magnificent sword Qi had already smashed the 2 ice and fire rings, and the sword Qi had also collapsed. The aftermath did not stop, and countless fine sword Qi directly shot toward Hongshirkue. Hongshirkue's face was as serious as dripping water. The ice ring in his left hand flew over his head, and a white ice wall hung down. The psychic sword Qi hit the ice wall, and in a moment, the ice wall was smashed, and the psychic sword Qi was also destroyed. May I ask which Taoism fellow cultivator wants to interfere in the affairs of the Crystal Palace? This person is the wanted criminal of the Crystal Palace, Qi Lianying. If you leave now, the Crystal Palace will let bygones be bygones. A cultivator with an indistinct face, who seemed to be covered by an invisible veil, was standing on a white cloud and slowly approaching. A golden flying sword was hovering above his head, like a naughty fish playing silently in the water. Obviously, Hong Shikui's words did not have the desired effect. The cultivator on the white cloud casually made a sword spell, and the golden flying sword shook above his head, suddenly becoming 180 feet long. The huge sword rose into the sky, and followed the cultivator's finger, directly chopping toward Hong Shikui. Law phenomenon skill, this is a magic treasure, you are a perfected cultivator of the core forging stage. Hong Shikui screamed, and then said, No, your Dharma power has not transformed into the genuine essence, and you have not reached the core forging stage. How can you use the law phenomenon skill? Hong Shikui, who had a strange look on his face, naturally knew how powerful it was. He had just reached the core forging stage, and his cultivation had not been consolidated yet, so he could not fully exert the strength of the core forging stage. Seeing the flying sword coming, he had to temporarily avoid it. The person was Lu Ping, who came on a magic cloud. With Lu Ping's help, Qi Lianing narrowly escaped death. Just as she was about to yell at Hong Shikui, her pale face suddenly turned red. She could no longer control herself and spat out a mouthful of blood. After Qi Lianing was injured by Hong Shikui's palm, she fought against Hong Shikui with all her might, not daring to show the slightest sign of injury. However, after receiving such a strong support, she could no longer control the injury in her body. After spurting out blood, she seemed to have lost half of her spirit. Her two fluttering sleeves also seemed to have lost their spirituality. She could only barely control them, cooperating with Lu Ping to attack Hong Shikui from the side. Who are you? Ever since Hong Shikui advanced to the core forging stage, he had returned from the North Sea in defeat. The frustration of being demoted to the Northern Alliance's territory by the sect had been swept away. Now that he had regained the sect's recognition and importance, he was in high spirits. His luck seemed to have improved with the improvement of his cultivation. An ordinary letter delivery mission had led him to encounter Qi Lianing, a wanted criminal of the sect. Hong Shikui, who was eager to contribute to the sect, had everything going smoothly. After Qi Lianing was injured by him, he had lost the chance to escape and could only put up a desperate fight. It was only a matter of time before he failed. Hong Shikui suddenly felt the sect's appreciation and respect for him. However, Lu Ping's appearance was like a hammer to his head. He never thought that one day, after he advanced to the core forging stage, he would be completely defeated by a blood condensation stage cultivator. In addition, Qi Lianing, who was seriously injured but still had some strength left, was causing trouble for him. Hong Shikui's battle with the two peak blood condensation stage cultivators was becoming more and more dangerous. This is absolutely impossible. Hong Shikui looked at the cultivator in front of him who was deliberately concealing his appearance. Every time he tried to use his divine sense to uncover the cultivator's true appearance, there would always be a layer of power that seemed to be both divine sense and divine sense blocking his divine sense. At the same time, the cultivator's aura was extremely strange. It was chaotic and irregular, so Hong Shikui's divine sense couldn't completely grasp it. That's right, this person must be a core forging stage cultivator. He just used a special technique to conceal his appearance and cultivation. Otherwise, how could a blood condensation stage cultivator block his divine sense and force him into such a predicament? Moreover, Hong Shikui was quite familiar with the cultivator's ability to change his secret technique. After pondering for a while, he suddenly remembered that when he was the Hall Master of the North Sea overturned Sea Gang, he once heard a cultivator from the Chou family of Chou Yun Island talking about the various sects in the North Sea. When they talked about the Sea Flame sect, they mentioned that the sect had a magical artifact called the Mirage Gauze Robe. When worn by a cultivator, it could make the cultivator's aura ethereal, making it very difficult to detect. Wasn't this cultivator using the Mirage Gauze Robe? This person is a cultivator from the Sea Flame sect of the North Sea. Hong Shikui was certain that he had succeeded in his plan. He didn't dare to expose the opponent's identity because he was at a disadvantage now. However, in a fight between cultivators of the same level, even if he couldn't win, he could still escape. Hong Shikui didn't think that the two in front of him could stop him if he wanted to escape. However, once he exposed the opponent's identity, the cultivator from the Sea Flame sect would definitely fight to the death with Hong Shirkuei to protect his sect from being destroyed by the powerful power of the Crystal Palace. Sea Flame sect? In the eyes of the East Sea, this was at most a neutral sect. How dare they offend the Crystal Palace? Hong Shirkuei spread out his divine thoughts. While dealing with the attacks from Lu Ping and Qi Lianying, he looked around, looking for an opportunity to escape. When he returned, he must report to the higher-ups of his sect about the Sea Flame sect. He must let the North Sea Overturned Sea Gang take revenge on the Sea Flame sect. After the beast tide of the North Sea, the Sea Overturned Sea Gang was strangely hit by the main force of the beast tide. 2 of the 4 perfected masters of Choyun Island were killed, and 1 was seriously injured. However, with the power of the Crystal Palace, the sects in the North Sea wouldn't dare to do anything to the Sea Overturned Sea Gang. Hong Shirkuei was multitasking. How could he escape from Lu Ping's eyes? Just as Hong Shirkuei found an opportunity and dodged Lu Ping's golden scale sword, the 2 jade bracelets collided. With a crisp ding, 2 waves of snow and a sea of fire erupted and surged toward Qi Lianying. Qi Lianying's expression changed. She quickly dodged, but she didn't expect the snow wave and the sea of fire, one hot and one cold, to collide. Suddenly, a vast power erupted. Qi Lianying's sleeves danced. At the same time, the green and red gauze on her body also spat out a green and red shield, wrapping Qi Lianying inside. The gauze on her body was actually a top-tier defensive celestial treasure. Qi Lianying hurriedly looked for Hong Shirkuei. However, after the snow and fire collided, a white mist was formed on the surface of the sea, blocking Qi Lianying's vision. Hong Shirkuei was nowhere to be seen. Qi Lianying rolled up her sleeves and drew a circle in the air. Then, she shook it outward, and the thick mist immediately dispersed in all directions. She just happened to see Hong Shirkuei's feet flashing with green and red light. He had already escaped in the direction where she was previously. Qi Lianying couldn't catch up with him. Don't let him escape. Qi Lianying was anxious. Chapter 254. Don't let him get away. Qi Lianying shouted subconsciously, but then she remembered that Lu Ping wasn't someone she could yell at. If she yelled at him like that, he might even feel annoyed. Qi Lianying looked at Lu Ping with an apologetic and pleading look, but she found that although Lu Ping did not show any displeasure, he did not say anything further. She could not help but feel a little disappointed. At this moment, Hong Shirkuei, who was running away, suddenly stopped and quickly turned his head to the side to dodge. A flying sword suddenly appeared in front of Hong Shirkuei out of thin air. It suddenly flashed with a cold light and slashed at Hong Shirkuei's neck. Shapeless sword technique. Hong Shirkuei, who thought that he could escape, was not prepared at all. Although he managed to avoid being hit in the vital parts, one of his ears was cut off by the invisible flying sword. Hong Shirkuei screamed in pain, but Qi Lianying was overjoyed. She rushed forward recklessly, her sleeves fluttering as if she was dancing. However, every time she swung her sleeves, they went straight for Hong Shirkuei's vital parts, entangling him tightly. She looked like she was going all out. Although Lu Ping did not know why Qi Lianying wanted to kill Hong Shirkuei, he knew that even if Lu Ping and Qi Lianying joined forces, they might not be able to kill a core forging perfected master unless Lu Ping used his natal gentian formation. Since Lu Ping had saved Qi Lianying, he naturally had his own plans. He would not let her fall into danger again. Therefore, the golden scale sword circled around like a fish jumping into the sea. Perhaps Qi Lianying still had some trump cards up her sleeves. The one Hong Shirkuei was truly afraid of was still Lu Ping. This was the reason why he was so anxious to escape. However, this crazy woman in front of him was pestering him relentlessly, and her attacks were not weak either. It was difficult for Hong Shirkuei to get rid of her for a while. Right at this moment, Hong Shirkuei's spiritual will sensed a great danger coming from the seawater beneath his feet. Hong Shirkuei flicked out a crystal shield and allowed Qi Lianying to attack him, but he held the ice and fire bracelets tightly in his hands as he looked at the bottom of the sea with a grave expression. The surface of the sea suddenly broke open, and a single-horned golden flood dragon suddenly broke out of the water, pouncing at Hong Shirkuei with its claws and fangs bared. The power of the horn transformed from the golden scale sword on its head was clearly far above that of the Qinghan sword. In addition to the 9 psychic sword lights in its eyes and 4 claws, the golden flood dragon also had 72 glittering psychic sword teeth in its mouth, and the remaining 36 psychic sword lights formed a sword-shaped mark near its throat. Due to the improvement of the golden scale sword and Lu Ping's swordsmanship, the power of the green flood dragon disturbing the sea sword art was incomparable to before. Hong Shirkuei naturally knew how powerful it was. The ice and fire bracelets slowly stacked together in his hands. Then, Hong Shirkuei pressed hard, and the 2 jade bracelets were forcibly fused into a new jade bracelet. Then, a white flame suddenly ignited on the body of the jade bracelet. The flame jumped in the void and strangely condensed the water vapor in the air into a layer of ice in the shape of a flame. The jade bracelet rose into the air and wrapped around the golden flood dragon. Lu Ping naturally sensed the strangeness of the jade bracelet. Lu Ping's divine sense swept over it, and the flame on the jade bracelet suddenly rose, as if it was burning and freezing Lu Ping's divine sense. Lu Ping only felt a strange cold, but it gave people a burning feeling. He felt a stabbing pain in his divine sense, and a wisp of divine sense suddenly disappeared. Lu Ping did not dare to be careless. The golden flood dragon continued to attack the jade bracelet. Every time it attacked, dozens of sword lights peeled off from the golden flood dragon's body, turning into drops of flame-shaped ice beads that fell into the sea, making a chi-chi sound, and then rising white smoke. Lu Ping's golden flood dragon became smaller and smaller. Although Hong Shirkuei's jade bracelet was powerful, it was obviously a difficult method to control. Sure enough, Lu Ping saw that every time the golden flood dragon attacked the jade bracelet, the golden flood dragon would be injured, and Hong Shirkuei's face would change again and again with each attack of the golden flood dragon. Obviously, it was not easy. The jade bracelet finally wrapped around the golden flood dragon's neck, and it became tighter and tighter. The golden flood dragon struggled a few times, and its whole body disintegrated. But at this moment, 36 psychic sword lights suddenly pierced out from the neck of the golden flood dragon that was beginning to collapse, and the jade bracelet suddenly stopped. Then, the horn turned back into the golden scale sword and suddenly slashed. With a crisp dang, the golden scale sword flew back, but the jade bracelet was broken by the golden scale sword again, turning into 2. The white flame on it flashed and finally disappeared. Hong Shirkuei's face first turned white, then red, and he suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at Lu Ping with eyes full of fear and hatred. Lu Ping did not have it easy either. The golden scale sword had relied on the quality of its own magic treasure. Although it had broken up the fused ice and fire bracelets, the moment the 2 collided, the strange flame suddenly burned away the transcendence energy contained in the sword. Moreover, the golden scale sword was a magic treasure after all. It was meticulously refined by Taoist Jin Li, and it was a magic treasure with room for improvement. The transcendence energy consumed to use this magic treasure was indeed a burden for Lu Ping. On the other side, Qi Lianying finally took advantage of the opportunity when Hong Shirkuei was seriously injured by Lu Ping again. She knocked away the crystal shield in front of her, then raised her hand and threw a small golden snake straight at Qi Lianying's face. Golden thread snake. Hong Shirkuei's divine sense transformed into a huge white hand with a ball of fire burning in its palm. He slapped the golden snake away, but his eyes were wandering and his divine sense was also spreading out, as if he was guarding against something. Sure enough, a silver thread appeared behind Hong Shirkuei, biting at his back. Hong Shirkuei was already prepared. He crossed his bracelets, and an ice blade emitting flames cut at the silver thread. However, there was a flash of golden light. At some point, the golden thread snake that had been slapped away suddenly appeared nearby. It swept its tail and shattered the ice blade. However, the golden thread snake's golden tail suddenly stiffened. Although a white flame flashed on the tail, the golden thread snake's golden head swayed left and right, hissing. It was obvious that it had just suffered a great loss. The silver thread had already taken the opportunity to pounce in front of Hong Shikue, biting the back of his hand. Hong Shikue's protective upstanding chi did not have the slightest effect on him. Hong Shikue's expression changed drastically, but he did not think twice. He summoned the ice jade bracelet and knocked it against his left hand. His left hand and wrist turned into ice chips and fell, leaving only the wound frozen, without a drop of blood. At this moment, the top-grade flying sword that attacked Hong Shikue earlier suddenly appeared next to him again. Hong Shikue could not dodge in time, and blood bloomed from his waist again. Golden thread silver thread snake. I didn't expect Qi Lianying to have such a strange beast. Lu Ping looked at the two little snakes that were circling in front of Qi Lianying with a strange light in his eyes. He wondered how these two little snakes were compared to his green sea snake. The golden thread silver thread snake usually appeared in pairs. The golden thread snake was as hard as iron and extremely difficult to kill. Some people had seen a golden thread snake survive after being hit by a magic weapon. The silver thread snake was a master of sneak attacks. Its figure was extremely difficult to be discovered, and it could ignore the protective upstanding chi of a practitioner. Its snake venom was extremely vicious. It was said that even Dharma form Laozu would have to spend a lot of effort to be bitten by it. The venom of the silver thread snake was far above that of the green sea snake. However, since Samling absorbed and integrated the golden meteorite aura in the golden canyon of Seven Stars Heaven, its venom may not be weaker than the venom of the silver thread snake. It might even be a level higher. Are you two completely sure that you can keep me here? At worst, you will die together with me. At that time, you and the people behind you will all suffer the merciless revenge of the Crystal Palace. Hong Shikue was injured again and again, but he became ruthless. Qi Lianying snorted coldly and said, "You should have been prepared to die long ago. In this world, only the Crystal Palace can kill people, but others can't kill the practitioners of the Crystal Palace. Is this the principle of the Crystal Palace?" Lu Ping stretched out his hand and waved. A flying sword shining with a cold light suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping held it in his hand and carefully felt the characteristics of this flying sword. He was quite satisfied. This was the top-grade flying sword Lu Ping obtained from the practitioner of the Crystal Palace who was killed in the Land of 100 Flowers. It was called Serene Water. The Serene Water sword itself was a sword that could be used for assassination. After Lu Ping obtained it, he used it to perform the shapeless sword technique. It complemented each other perfectly. With one move, he obtained an ear of a perfected cultivator in the core forging realm. Lu Ping waved his hand, and the Serene Water sword suddenly disappeared beside him. Hong Shikue felt a chill in his heart. Hong Shikue had experienced the ability of the Serene Water sword twice in a row. He could not help but focus all his attention on the void around him. At this moment, Qi Lianying suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood again. When Lu Ping turned his head, he saw a huge pair of scissors rising above Qi Lianying's head. The two long blades on the scissors closed together, and half of Hong Shikue's shoulder was suddenly separated from his body. Magic weapon. You actually have a magic weapon too. The horrified Hong Shikue lost the slightest will to fight. With the help of the blood, he used the blood escape technique and tried to escape. Qi Lianying's hands, which were controlling the scissors with great difficulty, formed a seal with great difficulty. The scissors suddenly opened and closed above her head again. Hong Shikue, who was just about to use the blood escape technique, screamed again. The blood escape technique was broken, and he was cut in half from the waist down by the scissors. Lu Ping, who was watching from the side, also felt a chill in his heart. The power of this pair of scissors was far greater than that of the pestle with two talisman treasures carved on it. Perhaps the two talisman treasures carved on it were different. Hong Shikue's upper body suddenly exploded, and a gloomy golden pill that was about to collapse jumped out from his heart. Two jade bracelets, one above and the other below, protected the golden pill in the middle and continued to escape. At this time, Qi Lianying was already exhausted. How could she stop the golden pill? She could only look pleadingly at Lu Ping. Lu Ping smiled and pointed a finger. Suddenly, a huge silver jade seal descended from the sky. With a loud bang, the jade bracelets had already lost the support of their magic power and were sent flying by the landslide. Before the golden pill was hit by the landslide, it disintegrated in the air and turned into a ball of extremely dense spirit qi, which then spread in the air. Chapter 255. The two jade bracelets that were knocked away were suddenly shaken by two rays of golden light. The jade bracelets suddenly stopped in the air, and two giant palms rose from the sea, grabbing the jade bracelets and flying toward Lu Ping. Although Qi Lianying also coveted the two jade bracelets, her mana was depleted, and it was difficult for her to even stand. She could only watch as Lu Ping played with the jade bracelets in his hands. Lu Ping turned his head and smiled at Qi Lianying. Qi Lianying knew that her thoughts had been seen through by Lu Ping, but she did not feel embarrassed. She rolled her eyes at him. Lu Ping laughed at himself and threw a jade bottle to Qi Lianying. Qi Lianying took the jade bottle, uncorked it, and poured out a medicinal pill. She did not even look at it and swallowed it. "Aren't you worried? Aren't you afraid that it is poison?" Lu Ping asked with a chuckle. Qi Lianying looked at him with disdain and giggled. "You saved me and then killed me. Could it be that this old lady's brain is broken like yours?" Lu Ping smiled wickedly and said, "Maybe it is aphrodisiac." Qi Lianying still giggled happily. "Then I have no choice. I will have to obey you. Let us be a couple, and the scenery of the East Sea will not be in vain." Lu Ping laughed dryly. He could not handle this situation, and he was really no match for this woman. He could only focus on the two jade bracelets in his hands. Qi Lianying saw that Lu Ping was embarrassed, and she laughed like a victorious hen. She looked at Lu Ping with colorful eyes. Lu Ping coughed and said without looking up, "If I were you, I would take advantage of the medicinal pill to heal my wounds. Otherwise, don't blame me for not reminding you if you forcefully use the mystic treasures and damage your foundation." Qi Lianying glanced at Lu Ping seductively and said, "Don't leave me alone while I'm recuperating." Lu Ping knew that the more you provoked this woman, the more excited she would be. Lu Ping closed his eyes and completely ignored her. Qi Lianying looked at Lu Ping and giggled. Then, she sat on the sea and began to suppress her internal injuries. Lu Ping guarded her while trying to figure out how to use the two jade bracelets. With the jade bracelets in hand, Lu Ping knew that he had found a treasure. Two jade bracelets, one ice and one fire. Lu Ping could tell at a glance that the spirit materials used to forge the ice bracelets were the 1,000-year chilling ice jade. This was a type of second-grade mutated spiritual material. Lu Ping also had a top-grade mystic treasure made from this jade. It was a gift from his second senior apprentice sister, Li Xuanru. He had asked Chen Lian's father to make it into a top-grade jade pendant, which he could carry around with him to aid his cultivation. As for the other fire ring, Lu Ping couldn't tell what kind of spirit material was used to forge it, but he reckoned that its quality wasn't inferior to the ice ring mixed with the Millennium Cold Ice Jade. It was also a top-grade mystic instrument that could be upgraded into a mystic treasure. These two jade bracelets were Hong Shikui's life-bound magic artifacts. Clearly, they were meant to be refined as magic treasures. Fortunately, Hong Shikui had only advanced recently and had yet to upgrade the two jade bracelets to magic treasures. Otherwise, the outcome of this battle would have been hard to predict. Lu Ping's divine sense penetrated the two jade bracelets, and along with his own magic power, he worked hard to expel Hong Shikui's imprint from them. Then he began to gradually refine them. At this time, Lu Ping discovered that these two jade bracelets each had a complex restriction that had not been completed. Lu Ping, who had seen this type of enchantment a few times, naturally recognized at a glance that they were two incomplete enchantment treasures. The two enchantment treasures had opposite attributes. One was suitable for fire elemental cultivation techniques, while the other was suitable for water elemental mystic treasures. However, when the two enchantment treasures worked together, they could strangely fuse together, greatly enhancing the power of the mystic treasures. The jade bracelet also gained some profound mysteries, just like the white flame that shocked Lu Ping during the battle just now. Lu Ping sensed that the jade bracelet was already strong enough to contend against the golden scale sword with just the two incomplete enchantments. If the two enchantments were completed, the jade bracelet's power would definitely be stronger than the golden scale sword. And if the two completed jade bracelets were combined, the resulting power would be even stronger than a single mystic weapon engraved with two different enchantments. Although these two mystic treasures were powerful, they were strange mystic treasures. A corresponding cultivation method was needed to fully unleash the power of the ice and fire bracelets. After all, ice and fire were two attributes that were extremely difficult to fuse together. Clearly, Hong Shikue had cultivated such a strange cultivation method. Although Lu Ping's cultivation method could also unleash the power of the ice bracelets, he was helpless against the fire bracelets. Once the ice and fire bracelets couldn't be used together, the power of these two mystic treasures would be reduced by half. In the night sky of the East Sea, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Flood waves surged, giving off an atmosphere of desolation and vitality. After taking the heart-dissolving pill refined by Lu Ping, the blue phoenix had successfully advanced to the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. Her body had become even larger, and her sharp eyes were constantly staring ahead. On the broad back of the blue phoenix, Lu Ping and Qi Lianying sat facing each other. Qi Lianying's complexion had improved a lot. It was obvious that her injuries were completely under control. However, flying on a mystic treasure was still very inconvenient, so Lu Ping had to call Lu Qin out from the spirit beast pouch and carry the two of them in the direction of Qianyuan City. What a coincidence! You're also going to Qianyuan City? There are many people there. Aren't you afraid of being seen and reported to the Crystal Palace? Lu Ping asked casually. Qianyuan City is the headquarters of the Northern Alliance. Naturally, they won't allow the Crystal Palace to behave atrociously in the city. However, I have my own plans. When the time comes, no one will recognize me, so you don't have to be so concerned about me, Qi Lianying said nonchalantly. By the way, why are you so determined to kill that Hong Shikue? After all, he is a core forging enlightened master. If you don't handle it well, both of you will be injured. Lu Ping asked curiously. You want to run after taking advantage of me? Not even the Crystal Palace. Even if I die, I will take a bite out of them. Lu Ping saw that she didn't want to talk about it, so he didn't ask anymore. Unexpectedly, Qi Lianying pulled down her gauze dress, revealing her smooth shoulder. She leaned to the side, and a purplish palm print appeared on the back of her shoulder in front of Lu Ping. Seeing that Lu Ping didn't understand, Qi Lianying explained, "This is the soul-chasing palm of the Crystal Palace. The practitioner who is hit by this palm will not only be seriously injured, but may also die. Even if he doesn't die, this palm also contains a trace of the divine sense of the person who made the palm. As long as the person who made the palm doesn't die, you can follow this divine sense to find the person who was hit. If I don't kill him, what awaits me is the endless pursuit of the Crystal Palace. Soul chasing, even if I don't die, I won't be able to escape." Lu Ping coughed and said, I see. Well, the wind is strong. Be careful not to catch a cold. Put on your clothes first. This reason? Very strong. Qi Lianying looked at Lu Ping's embarrassed look and suddenly giggled. Lu Ping felt a little embarrassed, so he closed his eyes and stopped talking. Chapter 256. 2 days later, on the boundless East Sea, an island that looked like a continent suddenly appeared, Qianyuan Island, the largest island in the northern part of the East Sea. At the center of Qianyuan Island was the rolling Qianyuan Mountain, and a magnificent city surrounded the entire Qianyuan Mountain. This was Qianyuan City, a huge mountain city, the real center of the Northern Alliance. Lu Ping and Qi Lianying parted ways before entering the city. Both of them had important things to do, so naturally, they would not enter the city together. Before Qi Lianying left, she chuckled strangely at Lu Ping, then suddenly tore off a piece of skin from her face, changing it into a mature and charming face. This level of disguise was far superior to the white and red masks that Lu Ping had used before. Lu Ping actually did not notice it at all before. According to Hong Ying, Qi Lianying had been dominating the 27 outer islands for 7 years, and even negotiated with the core forging enlightened masters of the 3 alliances many times before finally successfully occupying 5 islands. In other words, this woman had worn a mask on her face for 7 years without anyone noticing. The ingenuity of her disguise and her forbearance really made Lu Ping admire her. The entire Qianyuan city was protected by a huge formation, and the large spirit vein on Qianyuan Island was the source of the formation's spiritual power. Legend had it that this large spirit vein had been carefully cultivated by generations of masters of the Northern Alliance, and had reached the limit of a large spirit vein. It was only one step away from being promoted to a giant spirit vein. Qianyuan City prohibited cultivators from flying in the city, not even core forging enlightened masters, unless you were Fa Xiang Laozu. Lu Ping casually paid the city entrance tax of 10 spirit stones, then picked a cultivator who looked smart from the tour guides at the city gate, tipped him a mid-grade spirit stone, and asked him to take him to various shops selling spirit herbs in Qianyuan City. In Lu Ping's mind, as one of the largest cities in the North Sea, there would definitely be an abundance of cultivation resources in the city. Naturally, there would be all kinds of treasures. However, at the beginning, Lu Ping was quite satisfied with the purchase of spirit herbs. But after just a few shops, Lu Ping felt that something was wrong. He stopped the blood refining realm tour guide and asked, "Do you know why this shop only sells 500-year-old spirit herbs, but I've never seen a shop selling 1,000-year-old spirit herbs?" Looking at the ignorant tour guide in front of him, Lu Ping knew that this was not something a blood refining realm cultivator like him should know. So, he waved his hand and sent the minor repairs cultivator away. Just then, Lu Ping suddenly felt as if he was being watched. When he turned his head, he saw 2 late blood condensation cultivators looking at him from afar. When Lu Ping turned his head, they seemed to have confirmed something and quickly walked towards him. "Sir, you have been continuously purchasing spirit herbs from the shop. Are you an alchemist? Our gang leader invites you to come with us." One of the cultivators who spoke had a calm expression as if he was talking about something very normal. It seemed like he had done this many times before. Today, the hall master heard that a cultivator had come to the area under his control to purchase 500-year-old spirit herbs. Moreover, the cultivator kept asking about 1,000-year-old spirit herbs and wanted to purchase them. The hall master was overjoyed when he heard that. He turned around and ordered the 2 cultivators to invite the alchemist over while he hurriedly went to inform the gang leader. From their point of view, Lu Ping was just a late blood condensation realm cultivator. With their Dark Mountain Gang's influence, if they were to invite a late blood condensation realm cultivator for a cup of tea, wouldn't Lu Ping welcome them with a smile? Lu Ping really didn't put these 2 cultivators in his eyes. Since when could an alchemist be ordered around by a few small fries? Lu Ping glanced coldly at the 2 cultivators and ignored them. He leisurely called the tour guide, Minor Repairs, to bring him to the listening sound hut to drink tea and listen to the zither. The 2 cultivators from the Dark Mountain Gang were used to being treated with respect in this area. As long as they mentioned the name of the Dark Mountain Gang, even a core forging enlightened master would have to give them some face. They had never been ignored like this before. The 2 cultivators' faces turned bright red. They took 2 quick steps forward and blocked in front of Lu Ping. "Sir, you really don't have any respect for the Dark Mountain Gang. We have come under the orders of the hall master to invite you. We have already given you enough face. Sir, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." When the cultivators on the street heard the 2 cultivators mentioning the name of the Dark Mountain Gang, they looked at Lu Ping with pity. They didn't know why a late blood condensation cultivator would go against a local gang like the Dark Mountain Gang. Lu Ping was annoyed that his path was blocked by the 2 men. He snorted coldly and the two men in front of him felt a buzzing sound in their heads. Both of them were taken aback by Lu Ping's response. When the two of them regained their senses, Lu Ping had already walked past them. His voice lingered in the air as he said, "Is this how your hall master asked you to invite an alchemist? The Dark Mountain Gang really doesn't have any respect for alchemists." When the cultivators on both sides of the street heard Lu Ping's words, their gazes immediately changed. This time, they looked at the two cultivators from the Dark Mountain Gang with pity. Although the Dark Mountain Gang was an underground power in the streets near Qianyuan City, and it was said that there were 3 core forging experts in the gang, it wasn't to the extent that they didn't have any respect for alchemists, right? Although the two cultivators from the Dark Mountain Gang didn't know the weight of Lu Ping's words, their instincts told them that something was wrong. Did they mess up the hall master's task? But there was no reason for the gang to give in to a late blood condensation cultivator. The Listening Hut was a wonderful place for low-level cultivators in Qianyuan City. The hut was actually a tea house, but the cultivator who ran the tea house had several cultivators who were proficient in music. They often played the zither and flute in the hut. These tunes had special effects on cultivators' temperament, solidifying their realm, calming their mind, and even healing injuries. Therefore, many blood condensation cultivators in Qianyuan City were willing to come here to drink tea and listen to the zither. This became a good place for low-level cultivators in Qianyuan City to relax while they cultivated. Occasionally, core forging enlightened masters who loved music would come here to drink tea and listen to the zither. This made the Listening Hut even more famous. Lu Ping casually sent the tour guide, Minor Repairs, away and walked into the tea house. Waves of ethereal zither music suddenly floated over and lingered in Lu Ping's ears. Although Lu Ping didn't know anything about music, the magic power in his body seemed to flow faster with the zither music. His divine sense also shook, as if his spirit, chi, and spirit were adjusted to the best state with the zither music. A boy came forward and asked, "May I ask if you are Senior Lu Jiu? There are 2 sisters who want to see you. Please follow me." Chapter 257. Lu Ping followed the boy to a quiet room on the 2nd floor. The quiet room was quite spacious, and the interior decoration was simple yet elegant. It could be seen that the cultivator who ran this small building was indeed an elegant person. There was a screen in the middle of the quiet room, and 2 beauties walked out from behind it. They were Li Xiuzhu and Chu Ting, whom Lu Ping had met on Sanjia Island. Lu Ping looked up at the 7 spirits embroidered with a pang, a dragon, a swan, a tortoise, a tiger, a cicada, and an ape. He chuckled and said, "It's been 2 years, and you two are even more elegant than before." Li Xiuzhu nodded to Lu Ping, and Chu Ting smiled and said, "Brother Lu is too kind." In the past 2 years, Brother Lu's cultivation has also become more profound. If I'm not wrong, Brother Lu is now preparing to form his gold core. Lu Ping often used the Mirage Gauze robe and the spirit concealment art to conceal his cultivation base in front of others. It often gave off an unfathomable feeling. Even during the battle with Hong Shikue couldn't clearly see through Lu Ping's cultivation base with his core forging realm divine sense. But now, Chu Ting was able to see through Lu Ping's cultivation base. Lu Ping took a deep look at Chu Ting and said with a smile, "Miss Chu has a very sharp vision. It's just that I can't compare to you two. I'm still not confident in forming my gold core. I'm ashamed." Chu Ting continued to smile and said, "Brother Lu is really modest. If even Brother Lu doesn't have much confidence in forming his gold core, then there really aren't many cultivators in the East Sea who can form their gold core." Lu Ping smiled without saying anything. After sitting down with the 2 girls, he picked up the upper-rank spiritual tea on the table and took a sip. He closed his eyes and carefully tasted it. He said, "Good tea, upper-rank spiritual tea, spiritual spring water bred in a large spiritual vein, teapot and teacup made of upper-rank spiritual material, golden ebony. The owner of this listening small building is really generous. If we want to drink top-rank spiritual tea, I wonder if this tea set should also be replaced with top-rank spiritual material. After Lu Ping finished speaking, he put down the teacup in his hand. However, he didn't look at Chu Ting. Instead, he looked at Li Xiuzhu, who was beside Chu Ting. When Li Xiuzhu saw Lu Ping asking her, she replied, "Of course." His tone was firm as if he was talking about his own family matters. "Oh." Lu Ping looked at Li Xiuzhu and smiled. Chu Ting lowered her head and picked up the golden ebony cup in front of her. She took a sip and said, "Brother Lu is quick-witted. There is no need to test the two of us. This listening small building is indeed our property." Li Xiuzhu naturally knew that he had fallen into Lu Ping's trap and couldn't help but glare at him. Lu Ping smiled nonchalantly. Chu Ting only said "we" and not Li clan, which naturally meant that the Li clan was only a peripheral force of this mysterious force. Hence, he said, "Since Miss Chu has such a powerful backer, why would you need my help?" Chu Ting's expression turned cold as she looked at Lu Ping. Chu Ting pondered for a moment and seemed to have made a decision. She said, "Isn't Brother Lu planning to do something in the perished secret realm?" Lu Ping's eyelids twitched and he said, "Young Lady Chu is well informed. I wonder what other secrets young Lady Chu knows about this one." Chu Ting didn't mind Lu Ping's unfriendly tone at all. She continued, "One of the medium spirit stone veins on the nameless island hollowed out a third of the vein. I presume it was Brother Lu's doing as well." Lu Ping was still calm. Chu Ting said again, "Although Yi Buki was planted with the life and death spell by Brother Lu, he was once saved by our pavilion. He is also a peripheral member of our pavilion. In order to repay our kindness, he risked his life to tell me some things about Brother Lu. Of course, the matter of Brother Lu entering the spiritual mine on the nameless island is just my guess. I'm telling you frankly not because I think Yi Buki has been abandoned, but because I sincerely hope that Brother Lu can give Yi Buki and his brothers a chance to live. Brother Lu is smart enough to notice something from our next series of actions. Rather than being discovered by Brother Lu, Yi Buki and his brothers will be killed and there will be grudges between our pavilion and them. It's better for me to tell you the truth now and ask for Brother Lu's mercy." Lu Ping caressed the teacup in his hand and suddenly said, "The Six Directions battle formation is indeed not an exquisite battle formation that independent cultivators like them can obtain." Chu Ting smiled and said, "Brother Lu, you can see the general trend from a small clue. I admire you." Lu Ping sipped his tea and didn't say anything. Chu Ting knew that Lu Ping was weighing the pros and cons, so she didn't say anything. After a while, Lu Ping suddenly asked, "Is Immortal Jin Li also the work of your pavilion?" Chu Ting was also puzzled. "It's not our pavilion's doing. It's strange. Immortal Jin Li's origin is quite mysterious, as if he suddenly jumped out of a secret realm. There was no such person among the East Sea demon tribe before. With a cultivation of the second layer of the core forging realm, he consecutively defeated several core forging realm experts and even escaped from the hands of a middle core forging realm master. In the end, he was seriously injured by Wang Hua and Kun Shan of the Crystal Palace, and his whereabouts are unknown. Several powers in the middle layer of the fallen mystery realm have been disturbed by this Taoist Master Yao. It is no wonder that Brother Lu suspects that this person is the handiwork of our pavilion." The last place that Taoist Master Jin Li was seen was on the nameless island where the mid-sized spirit mine was located. Soon after that, news of the Crystal Palace discovering a spirit mine spread. Our pavilion suspects that Immortal Jin Li is looking for a place to recuperate. I heard that the East Sea Demon Tribe already knows about this and is investigating this Immortal Jin Li. Seeing that Chu Ting didn't seem to be lying, Lu Ping knew that Yi Buki hadn't told Chu Ting everything. He smiled and said, "Although I don't know your background, as far as I know, you don't seem to have a good impression of the Crystal Palace. Aren't you afraid that I'll sell you out after I leave this small building? You should know that the Crystal Palace is a giant in the East Sea, or even the largest sect in the outer seas. It can compete with the major cultivation sects and holy lands of the Middle Earth as an equal. It is said that it has inherited the legacy of one of the seventh patriarch, Zhao Daoren. Chu Ting and Li Xiuzhu looked at each other and smiled. Then, another charming laugh came from behind the screen. Of course it's because of me. Hong Shikue died in our hands. You don't seem to have a good impression of the Crystal Palace, so they are naturally relieved. Looking at the person who came out from behind the screen, Lu Ping smiled helplessly and said, maybe it's because of me. Hong Shikue died in our hands. You don't seem to have a good impression of the Crystal Palace, so they are naturally very relieved. Qi Lianying was overjoyed. She laughed and said, could it be a hero saving the beauty? I knew that you were interested in this old lady. Otherwise, why would you risk offending Water Crystal Palace to help this old lady kill that damned bastard? If you are interested in me, I will reluctantly give you a chance. Lu Ping couldn't stand Qi Lianying calling him old lady. She was clearly a mature and charming woman, but she still acted like an old man and had no qualms about talking to others. Chu Ting hurriedly introduced, Big Sister Ing is a close friend of Xiu Zhu and I. The two of us didn't think that Brother Lu and Big Sister Ing would have such a chance encounter. That's why we decided to tell Brother Lu the truth at the last minute, hoping to further our cooperation. Lu Ping glanced at the screen again without anyone noticing and said, I didn't expect Island Master Qi Lian to be a member of your pavilion. I guess the leak of the spiritual mine on the Nameless Island is also your pavilion's doing. Qi Lianying smiled proudly and said, that idiot from the Wang family is usually so arrogant and domineering. Ever since he saw me when we were collecting offerings, he immediately gave me half of his soul. I used some tricks, and he obediently gave me such a great gift. It's just that the property that I've worked so hard to accumulate has been ruined by the Crystal Palace. Chu Ting could tell from Qi Lianying's tone that Qi Lianying was a very competitive person. Qi Lianying had always hoped that Chu Ting could build up her own business and prove her capability. Qi Lianying had been managing the 27 islands for 7 years without asking for help from Qi Lianying. Qi Lianying had finally taken over 5 islands and gathered nearly 100 blood condensation realm cultivators under her. But in order to help Chu Ting, Qi Lianying had abandoned all of this. Chu Ting felt guilty and said, Sister Ing, go back to the pavilion with me. Sister Ing has mastered the secret technique and is only 1 step away from the gold core realm. Even if you go back to the pavilion, no one will dare to have any bad opinions about you. If that person comes again, I will be the first to deal with him. Qi Lianying giggled and said, don't worry. If I can earn this property once, I can earn it a second time. And it will be even bigger than the first time. Lu Ping coughed and said, let's talk about the Elixir Association first. Although I don't know much about the force behind Miss Chu, I can see the big picture from a narrow angle. Those who can plot against the Crystal Palace are naturally not a bunch of useless people. With the resources of the pavilion, it shouldn't be difficult for you to train a few alchemists like Miss Chu. Why do you insist that I represent the Li family? As soon as Lu Ping and Chu Ting met, they had a battle of words. This time, they finally got to the main topic. Chu Ting smiled faintly and said, Brother Lu, please know that the force I'm in is called the boudoir. Brother Lu, please don't laugh at me, there are indeed many female cultivators in our force. I hope you won't mention the boudoir in front of others, lest you harm yourself and others. Lu Ping chuckled. He was indeed a little surprised and nodded to show that he understood. Chu Ting continued, although there are 2 cultivators in the pavilion whose alchemy skills are not below my sister's, they either have important tasks or have advanced to the core forging realm like my sister and lost the qualification to participate in the Elixir Association. Moreover, the Li family is only a small force in the Northern Alliance. If there are alchemy masters appearing one after another, and all of them are female, it will inevitably arouse suspicion. Therefore, I can only ask Brother Lu to help. Lu Ping frowned and said, is this Elixir Association very important? Chu Ting considered her words and said, this Elixir Association is related to the distribution of interests of the Li family in the Northern Alliance, so it is very important. This time, the Zhang family, the Wang family, and the Li family will get a share of the medium-sized spiritual mine on the unnamed island. How much each of the three families will get will depend on the performance of the alchemists of the three families in this elixir association. It seemed that the Li family, as a chess piece of the boudoir in the Northern Alliance, was obviously very important. The boudoir was to expand the Li family's right to speak in the Northern Alliance. Moreover, Chu Ting kept using the word Li family, which was obviously a hint. It seemed that the boudoir in the Li family had some arrangements. Chapter 258. Seeing that Lu Ping was silent, Chu Ting took out a jade slip from the storage bracelet on her wrist and said, "This is the secret skill of spirit sense transformation. The reason why I can refine elixirs that are half a step to the core forging realm is because of the power of this secret skill. This secret skill is also very useful for cultivators to break through to the core forging realm. Of course, even if Brother Lu doesn't want to participate in this elixir gathering, I will give it to you as a thank you for saving Sister Ing and killing Hong Shikue. Also, I am afraid that the alliance between the three families will change. I am also willing to help Brother Lu replace the Wang family's position." Lu Ping raised his eyebrows and looked at Chu Ting. Chu Ting smiled helplessly and said, "Brother Lu, please forgive me for not saying too much. My original plan was to support Sister Ing, but the matter of the spiritual mine on the Nameless Island happened. Now Sister Ing is wanted by the Crystal Palace, so I can only hope that Brother Lu can replace the Wang family's position. Of course, I also hope that Brother Lu can advance to the core forging realm as soon as possible after the elixir gathering, so that you can occupy the Wang family's position." Qi Lianying said angrily, "Well, you wicked girl, you even want to plot against your mother and sister. I was wondering why you tried so hard to get me to occupy the island and become the king. It turns out that this is your plan." Her words were still fierce, but there was a trace of emotion in them. Lu Ping played with the jade slip in his hand and said with a smile, "In that case, let's go and meet the alchemy masters of the elixir gathering." After leaving the quiet room, Lu Ping happened to see Hong Ying and Wu Yen walking towards Lu Ping under the guidance of a young boy. Lu Ping was about to greet them, but he saw Hong Ying and Wu Yen were staring at something behind Lu Ping. Lu Ping turned around and saw Qi Lianying walking behind him. Lu Ping said with a smile, "Why are you following me?" Qi Lianying giggled and said, "Marry me. You saved my life, but I can't repay you with anything, so I can only marry you. Is this a common story among mortals?" Lu Ping helplessly slapped his head and said, "I have a fiancé. Don't even think about it." Qi Lianying was overjoyed, 3 wives and 4 concubines, don't you like it? I am such a natural beauty, but it's a pity that I'm one step behind your fiancé. Let's just be a co-wife. When the time comes, you can marry a few more concubines, and I'll teach them all to be obedient. Lu Ping really couldn't understand the thoughts of this old lady. Beside him, Red Eagle and Wu Yen were simply dumbfounded. Qi Lianying was still happily thinking, "Tell me, what type do you like? Mature, charming, graceful, jealous, tolerant, virtuous, shrewd, cheerful, melancholic, understanding, or something else that I haven't thought of?" "As long as you want it, I can satisfy you." Lu Ping was shocked and quickly waved his hand, all right, there's no need for that, it's enough." Red Eagle and Wu Yen were now crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. In the quiet room, after Qi Lianying left with Lu Ping, another charming middle-aged lady came out from behind the screen. Chu Ting and Li Xiuzhu quickly stood up and said, "Master." The middle-aged lady waved her hand and said, "Ting, you've arranged everything well. All these years, I've almost handed over all my matters to you. You've improved very quickly." Chu Ting smiled and said, "It's all because of Master's nurturing and trust. Now that Master's cultivation has reached the peak of the core forging stage, breaking through the Dharma stage and becoming the Dharma Laozu is the most important thing. As for other matters, as long as it's within my ability, I'll do my best." The middle-aged lady smiled and turned to Li Xiuzhu, "Xiuzhu, you're an honest child. You're not good at the open and secret fights in the boudoir. I've always taken you in as a registered disciple because I'm afraid that once you become a core member of the pavilion, you'll be plotted against by others. Fortunately, you've always been diligent in your cultivation. Now that you've become a core forging enlightened master, I think some people won't plot against you anymore. Now, I'll take you in as my personal disciple, my sixth disciple. When Li Xiuzhu heard this, he was stunned. Chu Ting quickly reminded him. 2 streams of tears suddenly flowed down Li Xiuzhu's eyes. He hurriedly bowed to the middle-aged lady to acknowledge him as his master. The middle-aged lady helped Li Xiuzhu up from the ground and smiled. According to the rules of my sect, when a disciple acknowledges a master, they must personally prepare a gift. Master and my fellow apprentices must also prepare a gift for you. Today, we'll settle this matter. After the pill gathering is over, we'll proceed with the ceremony. At that time, we'll invite others to attend the ceremony. That Lu Jiu is not bad. Invite him to attend the ceremony. Seeing that the middle-aged lady had finished speaking, Chu Ting hesitantly asked, Master, about Sister Ying's matter, what do you think? The middle-aged lady's face revealed a complicated expression. She then said, if she wants to go, then let her go. In any case, no one knows her true identity. Chu Ting was still worried and said, Sister Ying's soul was searched and she lost her memories. Master, you once said that once Sister Ying enters the core forging stage and her divine sense turns into divine sense, she might recover some of her fragmented memories. At that time, if... The middle-aged lady murmured, if she recovers, then so be it. It's good that she recovers. Chu Ting and Li Xiuzhu bade farewell and left, leaving only the middle-aged lady standing in the quiet room. She murmured to herself, I can't compete with you, but I definitely won't lose to you. Dharma manifestation stage. That person is still an amazing talent. We can't compare to him, but this time, I'll at least surpass you. At this moment, Qi Lianying was like a fox that had stolen a fish. She complacently followed behind the gloomy Lu Ping. Hong Ying and Wu Yan looked at each other strangely. They both silently followed behind Qi Lianying. This time, following Lu Ping to Qianyuan City was definitely worth it. At least they discovered 2 secrets about this mysterious young master. The first was that the young master saved the beauty, and the beauty promised to marry him. The second was that the young master had a fiancée. Lu Ping did not deliberately hide these 2 things from Hong Ying and Wu Yan. A feeling of being a trusted subordinate arose spontaneously. What was a trusted subordinate? That was, under the master's trust, they knew many of the master's secrets and would resolutely keep them to themselves. At this moment, a cultivator in his 50s wearing a linen robe walked into the listening hut. When he saw Lu Ping, he smiled and said, Little brother, I'm the old man, the leader of the Black Mountain Gang, Qiao Jingyan. Can you invite little brother to the quiet room for a cup of tea? Lu Ping smiled and said, That's fine. I don't dare to refuse an elder's gift. The zither in this hut is really good. I can drink and listen at the same time. Hong Ying and Wu Yan were shocked. The old man in front of them had an unfathomable cultivation base that was as vast as the sea. This was definitely not a cultivation base of an early core forging realm enlightened master. However, Lu Ping was talking and laughing with the old man instead of trembling in fear like they had imagined. This was simply unbelievable to them. Qi Lianying's face was indifferent. He continued to walk behind Lu Ping. Wu Yan and Hong Ying looked at each other and hid the shock in their eyes. They pulled themselves together and followed Lu Ping to a quiet room. Chapter 259. After entering the quiet room, the 2 of them sat down. Qi Lianying found a seat for herself, while Hong Ying and Wu Yan were quite self-conscious and stood below without moving. The leader of the Dark Mountain sect, Qiao Jingyan, ordered 5 cups of high-grade spiritual tea. The 2 of them did not speak, but each of them held the golden ebony cup in their hands and slowly tasted the tea. Hong Ying and Wu Yan were not used to this strange atmosphere and were a little restless. Qi Lianying, on the other hand, was still a rough person who was very different from her graceful image. She sat on the other tea table and began to doze off. Qiao Jingyan saw that Lu Ping was neither servile nor overbearing and was very calm. He could not help but think more highly of Lu Ping. If he was not a disciple of a big sect or a disciple of a famous master, he would not be able to cultivate such a temperament and pride. Having made up his mind, Qiao Jingyan put down the teacup in his hand and said with a smile, "Hall leader, you knew that you were buying a 1,000-year-old spiritual herb and was in a hurry to tell the old man about it. However, he neglected to instruct his subordinates, which is why he was so rude in front of you. I hope that you will not blame him." Since the Dark Mountain Gang's clan master had come personally, it meant that he had given Lu Ping enough face. Lu Ping naturally took the opportunity to back down and said, "It's just a misunderstanding. It's not worth mentioning." Qiao Jingyan saw that Lu Ping was not a person who would offend others, so he said again, "Forgive me for being presumptuous, old man. I heard that you were buying 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs from the shops on the nearby streets. May I ask if your alchemy skills have reached the level of a quasi-master?" Lu Ping did not answer Qiao Jingyan's question. Instead, he asked curiously, "This is also what I find strange. This Chenyuan city is one of the big cities in the East Sea. There are many cultivators here. Now is the time when the Northern Alliance's celebration and the elixir gathering is about to begin. It is the time when a large amount of cultivation resources are gathered. How come I have not even seen a 1,000-year-old spiritual herb?" Qiao Jingyan knew that Lu Ping wanted to exchange information. Right now, Qiao Jingyan had a favor to ask, so he explained, "I'm afraid that the old man's understanding of the cultivation world's demand for elixirs is not as deep as yours. Other than the rarity of alchemists, the scarcity of spiritual herbs is mainly due to the scarcity of spiritual herbs. Needless to say, old man, even in a big city like Chenyuan City, which can gather goods from all over the world, spiritual herbs will always be in short supply. Some big shops can barely sell 500-year-old spiritual herbs because they have their own spiritual herb gardens to support them. However, in Chenyuan City, without the recommendation of a close friend, spiritual herbs will not be sold openly." Lu Ping understood immediately. Most cultivators who could use 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs were high-level cultivators above the core forging stage. Or, they were like Lu Ping who had become a grandmaster alchemist at the blood condensation stage. Their status in the cultivation world was no less than that of a core forging stage cultivator. These kinds of cultivators naturally had their own privileges. Moreover, these kinds of private transactions were often a way to get on good terms with high-level cultivators. Qiao Jingyan hesitated for a moment, but still asked, "What kind of elixir do you want to refine with 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs? Although my Dark Mountain Gang is not an influential force in Chenyuan City, with hundreds of years of business, we still have some influence in Chenyuan City. Old man, can you recommend a few shops? I believe that with the old man's recommendation, you will be able to buy some 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. However, how much you can buy is not something that the old man can help you with." Lu Ping's expression changed, and he solemnly said, "If that's the case, I will shamelessly ask Senior to introduce me. However, I don't deserve a reward without doing anything. I wonder if there is anything Senior can do for me." Qiao Jingyan's expression became happy, but he was also a little hesitant, as if he was a little worried. However, he still handed a jade slip to Lu Ping. Lu Ping looked at the jade slip and said, "Inheritance jade slip." Qiao Jingyan said seriously, "That's right. I won't hide it from you. A few years ago, my son cultivated excessively in order to reach the core forging stage. In his eagerness for success, he suffered qigong deviation and damaged his blood vessels. This caused his cultivation to not only be unable to progress further, but it also slowly showed signs of dissipating. The old man was burning with anxiety, and he went around to seek medical treatment, but all the alchemists said that my son's injuries could not be healed. The old man was originally disheartened, but by chance, he obtained this prescription. It was said that this elixir could cure a cultivator's blood vessels caused by qigong deviation. The old man was overjoyed, and he invited the alchemists in Shenyuan City to refine this elixir. However, when these alchemists saw the prescription, they either said that they couldn't refine it, or said that this kind of elixir was simply full of mistakes and nonsense. However, the old man didn't give up, and still generously invited 2 alchemists he was on good terms with to refine this elixir. Even if this elixir turned out to be poison, he didn't care. The 2 alchemists were forced by the old man to give it a try, but they both failed. My son's heart was also like dead ashes. The old man really didn't want to see my son so depressed, and all these years, he never gave up looking for alchemists, hoping that they could refine this elixir. Lu Ping was about to reach out and pick up the jade slip on the table, but when he heard this, he withdrew his hand, thought for a moment, and said, "I don't know if there are any great alchemists among the alchemists senior invited." Qiao Jingyan knew that Lu Ping had guessed something, so he didn't intend to hide it. Instead, he sighed, and said, "Indeed, I once invited 2 great masters to look at the elixir recipe, and even invited one of them to refine it. The 2 of them didn't say that it couldn't be refined, but only said that the refining requirements were extremely difficult. In the alchemy world, it's almost impossible for alchemists to meet such harsh requirements." Lu Ping looked at Qiao Jingyan with a smile that wasn't a smile, and said, "Then how is Senior so sure that I can refine this elixir that even the 2 great masters can't successfully refine?" Qiao Jingyan shook his head, and said with a bitter smile, "Now, the old man can only treat a dead horse as if it's alive." Once he knew that an alchemist had appeared in Heaven Essence City, he thought of every possible way to go and plead with them, but they either said that the elixir recipe was nonsense, or that they were unable to refine it. "Little brother, feel free to take the jade slip and take a look. Regardless of whether little brother is able to refine it or not, the old man will introduce a few shopkeepers to little brother." According to the old man's knowledge, these shopkeepers all have quite a number of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Lu Ping smiled, and no longer hesitated. He took the jade slip in his hand, and used his divine sense to carefully examine the contents inside. After a long time, Lu Ping withdrew his divine sense from the jade slip, a strange expression on his face. Although Qiao Jingyan didn't have much hope in this, he still had a sliver of hope in his heart. Seeing that Lu Ping was muttering to himself, he couldn't help but look a little hopeful. "Spiritual water meridian nourishing pill, huh? This is interesting. No wonder so many alchemists scoffed at this elixir recipe." Seeing the slight eagerness on Qiao Jingyan's face, Lu Ping knew that no matter how high Qiao Jingyan's cultivation was, how old he was, or how much self-restraint he had, in the end, he was still a father. On this point, even though he was the all-powerful sect leader, there was nothing he could do. "Perhaps I can give it a try," Lu Ping said with a chuckle. Chapter 260. After leaving the quiet room, Lu Ping chatted happily with Qiao Jingyan before he left. Lu Ping knew that Qiao Jingyan was doing this on purpose for people with ulterior motives. Lu Ping's words to the 2 Dark Mountain Gang disciples on the street forced the gang leader to personally apologize and explain the misunderstanding. Now that Lu Ping owed Qiao Jingyan a lot, he naturally had to help the Dark Mountain Gang clear the crime of looking down on alchemists. Back in the quiet room, Hong Ying and Wu Yan were already full of admiration for Lu Ping. Qi Lianying stretched lazily and cursed, "An old fox and a little fox." Lu Ping pretended not to hear it. Qi Lianying might look like a carefree person, but he was a boss who had managed to gather nearly 100 blood condensation cultivators for several years. Naturally, he had seen and used many tricks. Hong Ying asked, "Young master, what are our plans for the next period of time?" Lu Ping thought for a while and said, "Let's find a place to stay first. We will need to stay for a long time. At the same time, I still have a few secret techniques to cultivate. After that, I will represent the Li family to participate in the Northern Alliance's elixir gathering." Hong Ying and Wu Yan could not understand how this young master could be so omnipotent. Not only did he chat casually with the leader of the Dark Mountain Gang, Enlightened Master, he could even represent the Li family in the Northern Alliance's elixir gathering. To the two of them, whether it was the Lee family or the Overturned Seas gang, they were both giants that surpassed their imaginations. The Northern Alliance was established to unite the East Sea's rogue cultivators and use them as a tool to express their benefits. Therefore, Chenyuan City had a special cultivation cave for rent. This was also a method used by the Northern Alliance to attract cultivators. The caves here are divided into 4 grades: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. The concentration of spiritual energy in the heaven grade cave is equivalent to a large spiritual vein. The earth grade cave is equivalent to a medium spiritual vein. The black grade cave is equivalent to a small spiritual vein. The yellow grade cave is equivalent to a small spiritual vein. The Red Eagle reported the information he had inquired about to Lu Ping, then said after some deliberation, "If the 4 of us rent a cave, we just need to choose a yellow-ranked cave with relatively abundant spiritual energy. After all, we won't be staying here for long, so we won't need to spend too many spirit stones." "How much is it?" Lu Ping asked directly. "The yellow-ranked cave only costs 300 spirit stones a month." Lu Ping of the Red Eagle was only asking about the yellow-ranked cave and quickly replied, "Anything else?" As for the others, a profound rank Immortal's cave is 2,000 spirit stones a month. Hong Ying knew that his young master was actually a very wealthy person. He was indeed extravagant. The density of spiritual energy in a small spirit vein was enough for a core forging enlightened master's family to pass down their inheritance. "What about higher up?" Lu Ping asked casually as he walked. "Earth-ranked cave. 1 moonlight spirit stone is 30,000 TSK. It really is expensive. It is said that there are a total of 24 earth-ranked cave dwellings in Chenyuan City. The density of the spiritual energy there is second only to the 8 heaven-ranked cave dwellings at the main peak of Chenyuan Mountain. It is said that the 8 main peaks are prepared for the Transcendence Laozu when they come to Chenyuan City as guests." Hong Ying's face was full of yearning. It seemed that the young master was also very envious of these cave dwellings. "Oh, then how much are the 8 heaven-ranked cave dwellings worth?" "They are usually not rented out, but used as a place for the Northern Alliance to receive guests. It is specifically used to receive the Transcendence Laozu who comes to the Northern Alliance as a guest. Not only do they not charge spirit stones, but they also do their best to rope them in." Hong Ying was obviously proud of himself for being able to obtain such detailed information in such a short period of time. "What a pity, then let's rent an earth-ranked cave dwelling." Lu Ping was not lacking in spirit stones at the moment. "Okay, I'll do it now." Hong Ying turned around and was about to walk away, but halfway through his steps, he abruptly stopped. "The young master wants to rent an earth-ranked cave dwelling?" Hong Ying turned around in disbelief and said, That's 30,000 spirit stones, that's 360,000 spirit stones a year." "Oh, that's right. You don't have that many spirit stones on you. Here are 400,000 spirit stones. Use them to book the cave dwelling's lease for a year." Lu Ping's face was still indifferent as he casually took out an interspatial pouch and handed it to Hong Ying. Hong Ying looked at the storage bag in his hand in a daze. There were indeed 400,000 spirit stones neatly stacked inside. Only when Wu Yan reminded him did he react and hurriedly took the storage bag and walked towards the cave dwellings in Chenyuan City. With the Dark Mountain Gang's recommendation, Lu Ping bought a few thousand-year spirit herbs from a few shops. There was indeed an abundance of thousand-year spirit herbs here. After the Dark Mountain Gang's cultivators hinted that Lu Ping was an alchemist, any random shop could take out 10 or even dozens of thousand-year spirit herbs. Outside of Chenyuan Island, in the market squares of other small and medium-sized islands, if there were a few thousand-year-old spirit grasses in the shops, they would be used as the treasures of the shops. The shopkeepers wished that they could use these spirit grasses to eat for 3 years if they didn't open for business for 3 years. When Lu Ping saw the shopkeepers easily take out the thousand-year spirit herbs for him to choose from, he naturally knew that the shopkeepers still had some in stock. However, in order to maintain a steady flow of spirit herbs, especially since the pill gathering was imminent and there would be a large number of alchemists coming to Qianyuan City. They would definitely not give away all of their spirit herbs. Lu Ping had just made a fortune and did not lack spirit stones. He even took the time to refine a lot of blood condensation realm pills. With these two items and Lu Ping's extravagance, the shopkeepers were happy to trade with Lu Ping. Lu Ping did not hold back. As long as it was 1,000-year spirit herb, he would take it all, regardless of whether it was useful to him or not. After visiting a few shops, Lu Ping had collected nearly 300,000-year spirit herbs, among which there were quite a few rare treasures. Lu Ping calculated in his heart. The spirit herbs he had were barely enough for him to refine a few batches of pills. For the time being, he planned to take advantage of the time before the pill gathering to practice the spirit sense transformation technique that Chu Ting had given him. When Lu Ping's divine sense reached the peak state of the splitting mystic art, his divine sense was once too large. When Lu Ping shrunk his divine sense to the limit, his divine sense showed signs of turning into thoughts. However, this was only a phenomenon. Lu Ping hadn't reached the core forging realm yet, so he couldn't use this method. He could only sigh helplessly. Now that he had the spirit sense transformation secret technique, things were different. Not only could Lu Ping completely turn his spirit sense into spirit sense before he advanced to the core forging realm, he could also use it skillfully. Under the stimulation of the 400,000 spirit stones in his hands, Hong Ying's efficiency increased by several times. After Lu Ping visited a few shops that sold spirit herbs in the jurisdiction of the Black Mountain Gang, Hong Ying had already settled the matter of the cave abode. First of all, the earth cave abode was spacious enough. It had all the necessary facilities for cultivation. The cave abode had its own spirit garden, and the spirit herbs and spirit trees inside were also lush. After Lu Ping arrived at the cave abode, he went straight into the cultivation room, leaving Hong Ying and Wu Yan to admire the layout of the cave abode, which had a medium spirit vein density. Even Qi Lianying, who was next to them, could not help but take a few more glances at the layout of the cave abode. By the time the three of them had restrained their curiosity about the earth cave abode and realized that they should take advantage of this opportunity to cultivate, Lu Ping had already started making all the necessary preparations in the cultivation room. To others, the spirit sense transformation technique might require a lot of time and effort to cultivate, but to Lu Ping, it was quite easy. This was because Lu Ping's spirit sense was already strong enough. After shrinking his spirit sense, he had already reached the threshold of spirit sense. If it were other cultivators, they would have to spend a lot of effort to cultivate the consciousness gathering technique, which required the cultivator to repeatedly compress his spirit until it reached the standard of cultivating the secret technique. This was not only a long and painful process, but to Lu Ping, this process was completely meaningless. Lu Ping easily transformed his spirit sense into spirit sense and spread out his spirit sense. Within a radius of nearly 2 miles, Lu Ping's spirit sense could sense everything within it. Hong Ying and Wu Yan, who were looking for a place to cultivate in the cave abode, suddenly stiffened as a core forging sage's aura rushed out from the inside of the cave abode. Qi Lianying looked in the direction of Lu Ping's cultivation room with curiosity in her eyes. She naturally knew what secret technique Lu Ping was cultivating, but she did not expect Lu Ping to reach the final stage of the secret technique in such a short time. He could directly control the new spirit sense and familiarize himself with it. Qi Lianying thought for a moment, then shifted her attention from Lu Ping to the storage bracelet in her hand. This storage bracelet was a mid-grade storage artifact. Although it was not as good as the high-grade storage ring on Lu Ping's hand, it was commonly used by some blood condensation realm cultivators and core forging sages. When Lu Ping and Qi Lianying joined forces to kill Hong Shikue, Qi Lianying was seriously injured and could not walk. Naturally, this storage bracelet fell into Lu Ping's hands. Lu Ping's mind was completely focused on the pair of jade bracelets. After taking away more than a dozen thousand-year-old spiritual herbs and 3 high-grade spirit stones from the storage bracelet, he found 2 jade slips. He was even more excited than when he found the spiritual herbs and spirit stones. As for the rest of the items, Lu Ping was kind enough to give them to Qi Lianying after Qi Lianying's injuries were stabilized. Qi Lianying naturally would not be embarrassed about such a good thing. She reached out to take the storage bracelet and even gave it to Qi Lianying with an expression that said, "At least you know what's good for you." As the Northern Alliance's celebration approached, there were more and more cultivators in Qianyuan City. There were all kinds of cultivators mixed together, and there were even demonic cultivators in the city. This caused the situation in Qianyuan City to become more and more tense. There were constantly news of conflicts between cultivators in the city. The Northern Alliance made a prompt decision and sent out 36 patrol teams. Laozu was in charge of the overall coordination, and 72 core forging sages led the teams to maintain order in Qianyuan City. Qianyuan City quickly returned to its previous order, and at the same time, it showed the cultivators who came to Qianyuan City the great power of the Northern Alliance. At this time, Lu Ping was still calm. In his cultivation room, there were all kinds of 1,000-year-old and 500-year-old spiritual herbs. Lu Ping had just mastered the new transformation of his spirit sense, so he naturally wanted to try it out. Chapter 261. Lu Ping concocted a few types of late blood condensation pills. His control of the pill furnace and the blue spiritual fire had reached new heights. His final success rate hovered between 80 and 90%. According to Lu Ping's knowledge, the success rate of an ordinary master alchemist concocting a late blood condensation pill was about the same. Lu Ping concocted another 2 batches of face-halting pills. These were the easiest half-step core forging pills to concoct. Lu Ping was already very familiar with them. His 70% success rate boosted Lu Ping's confidence. Next, Lu Ping concocted a batch of heart-dissolving pills. Lu Ping's 3 green sea snakes had successfully advanced to the late blood condensation realm after consuming the barrier-breaking pills that Lu Ping concocted using perfected Jean Li's blood essence on Soundwave Island. Based on the green sea snake's current cultivation speed, Lu Ping estimated that it would take at most a year for Samling to advance to the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. After consuming the heart-dissolving pills, Lu Ping believed that with Samling's strength, they would be able to fight against core forging enlightened masters like Hong Shikue. The green sea snakes that had reached the late blood condensation realm had become an important combat force for Lu Ping. After the spiritual or vein was discovered on the Nameless Island, a large number of cultivators swarmed into the fallen mystic land, causing a huge impact on the 3 islands under Lu Ping's control. Lu Ping sent out his 4 strongest spiritual pets. After consuming the heart-dissolving pill, the 9th layer Blue Phoenix easily killed 2 peak blood condensation rogue cultivator leaders. Samling, who had just advanced to the late blood condensation realm, also displayed his terrifying combat strength. Each of the 3 spiritual snakes successfully killed a peak blood condensation cultivator leader. This caused the rogue cultivators, who had been eyeing the islands under Lu Ping's control, to fall silent. The blood-dissolving pill was much more difficult to concoct than the face-retaining pill, but Lu Ping still managed to concoct 5 of them. This made Lu Ping feel that his alchemy skills had improved significantly. Although the heart-dissolving pill only required 18 types of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs, all of them were extremely rare and precious. They were used as the main ingredients when concocting core forging realm pills. This was also why, in the cultivation world, the heart-dissolving pill was much more difficult to concoct than other pills that could help one break through to the core forging realm. However, the value of the heart-dissolving pill was not inferior to those pills. Now, the only thing that limited Lu Ping's alchemy skills was the middle-grade alchemy furnace in front of him and Lu Ping's cultivation that had not yet advanced to the core forging realm. This middle-grade alchemy furnace was inherited from Lu Ping's alchemy inheritance. With the improvement of Lu Ping's alchemy skills, the middle-grade alchemy furnace had begun to be unable to fully display the strength of Lu Ping's alchemy skills. Lu Ping had also thought of changing to a high-grade alchemy furnace until he could completely control the Nachuan cauldron. However, How could it be so easy to obtain an alchemy furnace? A high-grade alchemy furnace was as precious as a top-notch magic weapon. In the hands of any alchemist or force, it was a hidden treasure. Even if an ordinary cultivator obtained it, they would not easily take it out to show it to others. The difficulty of refining the enchanting thought pill was not lower than the 7-step mark pill. It required a total of 26 kinds of thousand-year-old spiritual herbs. All of them were treasures that were comparable to the pills of the core forging realm. It was of great help to a cultivator in breaking through to the core forging realm. There were two main aspects of the divine sense transformation secret technique. One was to transform the divine sense into divine sense, the other was to teach the blood condensation realm cultivator how to control this kind of divine sense. With his divine sense, Lu Ping could control the azure spirit fire with less arcane energy. His control over the azure spirit fire was more flexible and precise, and his control over the medicinal properties of the spirit herbs in the cauldron was also more precise. In addition to his self-created purification technique, his increasingly proficient alchemy techniques, and the addition of royal jelly, Lu Ping successfully condensed 4 enchanting thought pellets. The enchanting thought pill was a type of pill used to comprehend the core forging realm in advance. It was not like the 7-step mark pill, which was used to break through the bottleneck of the core forging realm. Lu Ping pondered for a moment. There were still 7 days left until the core forging realm gathering, which was more than enough time for him to consume the enchanting thought pellet and comprehend the core forging realm. Hence, he called Hong Ying and Wu Yen over and gave them the 2 interspatial pouches. Outside the cultivation room, Qi Lianying saw Hong Ying and Wu Yen coming out of Lu Ping's cultivation room and he excitedly walked out of the cave dwelling. Qi Lianying's eyes rolled a few times as he looked at the 2 and a smirk appeared on his face. He then stood up and walked out of the cave dwelling to chase after them. At this time, Lu Ping had already entered a deep state of meditation because of the enchanting thought pill. Because of the enchanting thought pill, Lu Ping's realm had been forcibly raised to the early stage of the core forging realm. A golden core was formed from nothing. It was formed from the 9 condensed blood beads. At the same time, an external force seemed to make up for a major flaw in Lu Ping's bloodline. At the same time, it became the catalyst for the 9 condensed blood beads to form a golden core. A golden core, like a bright moon, shone brightly in Lu Ping's core space. 12 pearls that emitted 5-colored light were like the brightest satellites in the sky, protecting the golden core in the center. In the state of meditation, Lu Ping, who had formed a golden core, had a feeling that his words were the law. Lu Ping stretched out a finger and the golden scale sword appeared in the air. The 6 sword techniques of the North Sea Wave listening technique were practiced by Lu Ping one by one. Then, a faintly discernible flying sword appeared beside the golden scale sword. As the golden scale sword danced, the invisible sword technique of the tranquil water sword was displayed. Along with the dancing of the golden scale sword, it appeared and disappeared unpredictably, giving off a fierce but unpredictable feeling. Lu Ping had never thought that the combination of the golden scale sword and the tranquil water sword could display such power. The golden scale sword was extremely powerful and was used as the main attack, while the tranquil water sword was unorthodox and was used as a sneak attack. With such a combination, the power of the 2 swords was more than doubled. Lu Ping once again used the sword technique of essential essence. The sword qi that filled the sky gathered to form a divine sword. It was as if this divine sword was the only one that could move unhindered in the world, and no one could match it. Lu Ping's sword momentum changed, and the sword qi of essential essence suddenly collapsed in the sky. The sword qi that filled the sky suddenly collapsed in the sky, and the whole world seemed to be ushering in doomsday because of this collapsing sword qi. At this time, Lu Ping suddenly used a set of unfamiliar swordsmanship. This set of swordsmanship was wide and open. Every stab of the sword had a kind of momentum that could swallow the world, and also a kind of all-encompassing concept. It was as if the sky could contain the stars, and the sea could contain all rivers. At this moment, the rampaging sword qi in the sky was like a wanderer who heard the call of his mother, and also like the rivers flowing east to the sea. At this moment, this set of swordsmanship had become the source of this world. 100 Rivers into the Sea Sword Technique. This was the most profound and difficult set of swordsmanship among the 12 techniques of listening to the waves. At this moment, Lu Ping finally revealed some clues. At the same time, it also told Lu Ping that this was a set of swordsmanship magical power that was far above sword intent. When Lu Ping was unable to reach the unity of sword and practice realm of sword intent, there was nothing he could do about this set of swordsmanship magical power. Lu Ping's heart stirred, and he thought of another set of swordsmanship. Chapter 262. The enchanting thought pill allowed Lu Ping to thoroughly feel the magic power that a core forging Taoist master should have. Everything that Lu Ping felt in his divine sense seemed to point out the direction for Lu Ping to reach the gold core realm in the future, eliminating the confusion in Lu Ping's cultivation. After feeling the monstrous magic power of the sword art of all rivers flowing into the sea, Lu Ping suddenly thought of another set of techniques that he had yet to master. He blew out a mouthful of genuine qi, and the golden scale sword and the netherwater sword that were flying in the sky suddenly disappeared. Then, Lu Ping raised his hands, and the thousands of sword qi that were gathered by the sword art of all rivers flowing into the sea suddenly glued together. In a moment, it turned into a sword lake with undulating waves. Lu Ping's will moved, and the sword lake surged with thousands of layers of waves. The layers of waves washed towards the shore of the lake, and in an instant, the size of the sword lake doubled. Lu Ping pressed his hands together, and a dull rumbling sound came from the depths of the ground. A small island slowly broke out of the water, and gradually formed a small island in the middle of the sword lake. The entire terrain changed with the formation of the island. Lu Ping used all his strength, and the sword lake suddenly turned into a boundless blue ocean. The tides rose and fell, and the waves rolled. The islands in the ocean rose and fell, and the land moved and shrank at the junction with the ocean. It was like a microcosm of millions of years. The art of changing seas and mulberry fields. This was a true magic power that could overturn rivers and seas. Indeed, this was another magic power. Lu Ping became excited. In his divine sense, the 12 gentian beads that had become magic treasures turned into 12 five-colored rays of light, forming the gentian formation in the sky. The whole formation seemed so small in the sky above the boundless ocean. However, when the 12 gentian beads fell down, the boundless ocean suddenly became quiet, as if it had frozen. It was as calm as a boundless mirror. The 12 five-colored rays of light then turned and formed a deep whirlpool in the ocean formed by the sword qi. Boundless seawater poured into the whirlpool, but it was never able to fill this bottomless abyss. The islands in the ocean, big and small, all collapsed at this moment. When the 12 beads stopped moving in the sky, the entire world seemed to return to its original state. All of the great changes caused by Lu Ping's evolution completely disappeared. At this moment, an inexplicable suction suddenly appeared, and Lu Ping suddenly felt dizzy. Lu Ping, who was in the cultivation room, suddenly opened his eyes filled with confusion. In a moment, Lu Ping's eyes gradually became clear. Only then did he realize that everything that had just happened was just a dream. However, everything that had evolved in his divine sense was still vivid in his mind, leaving a deep impression. Every time he recalled it, he would suddenly feel enlightened, greatly increasing Lu Ping's confidence in reaching Jindan. Lu Ping, who was sitting there quietly, suddenly stretched out his left hand, and a faintly discernible flying sword appeared in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping opened his left hand and waved it. The netherwater sword was like a fan that had been opened. 1,296 rays of sword light were densely arranged together, forming a huge fan with 324 rays of spiritual sword light as its ribs. The enchanting thought pill was indeed extraordinary. The enchanting thought pill was indeed extraordinary. When Lu Ping looked down, he found that the 3 remaining enchanting thought pills in his hand had already disappeared. Lu Ping felt strange. He counted with his fingers and found that 12 days had passed. One enchanting thought pill could simulate the scene of a cultivator reaching the core forging stage in his divine sense or divine sense for about 3 days. 4 enchanting thought pills would last for 12 days. Lu Ping had unknowingly consumed the remaining 3 enchanting thought pills in order to maintain the simulation time in his divine sense. Lu Ping circulated the magic power in his body and immediately felt that the magic power in his body had become much thicker and purer. He sent his divine sense into the space in his heart and discovered that the 9 large condensed blood beads in Lu Ping's heart had spontaneously formed a circle. The 12 gentian pearls formed an even larger circle around the 9 condensed blood beads, surrounding the 9 condensed blood beads. At the same time, the 9 condensed blood beads slowly rotated, gathering the spiritual power around Lu Ping's body. Through the circulation of the spiritual power in his body, it would be refined by the gentian pearls before being absorbed by the 9 condensed blood beads. The formation of the 9 pearls indicated that the golden core was about to form. Once Lu Ping decided to form his golden core, the 9 condensed blood pearls would continuously gather his bloodline and arcane energy in the center. Then, when the golden core was formed, the 9 condensed blood pearls would disappear. Half a step into core forging. Lu Ping was only 1 step away from forming his gold core. When Lu Ping came out of seclusion, he saw Wu Yan pacing in front of Lu Ping's cultivation room like an ant on a hot pan. Seeing Lu Ping come out, Wu Yan felt as if she had been pardoned. She hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Young master, the Northern Alliance's pill-gathering ceremony has already begun. Tomorrow will be the day when the alchemists of the various forces in the Northern Alliance will compete. The Li family has already sent people to urge you, but Hong Ying has always used the excuse that young master is in closed-door cultivation as an excuse. Today, 2 core forging enlightened masters came to visit you, and they seem to have something to say about young master's closed-door cultivation. If it wasn't for that woman, I'm afraid Hong Ying wouldn't have been able to resist the 2 of them." When Lu Ping heard this, he naturally knew who they were. He also knew that it was Qi Lianying who had stopped the 2 people. However, these 2 people had actually tried to break through while he was in closed-door cultivation. Lu Ping's face suddenly became gloomy. The longer the medicinal effect of the enchanting thought pill lasted, the more profound one's understanding of the core forging realm would be. Moreover, the deeper one's understanding of the core forging realm was, the deeper one's understanding of one's hidden abilities would be. When the 2 people had tried to break through the enchanting thought pill, it was a critical moment for Lu Ping to comprehend the gentian array. If he was disturbed by these 2 people, after Lu Ping had formed his gold core, he didn't know how long it would take for him to comprehend the essence of the enchanting thought pill. In the cultivation world, the biggest grudge was often not a life and death battle, but a life and death battle, but a life and death battle, a life and death battle, but a life and death battle, 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 a life and death battle. If in the future, when Lu Ping advanced to the core forging realm, he would miss the opportunity to reach the gold core realm because of the disturbance today. If that happened, then Lu Ping would really have an irreconcilable enmity with Chu Ting and Li Shouju. Along the way, Lu Ping's killing intent overflowed. He walked towards the reception room in the cave mansion. Wu Yan carefully followed behind him. She was stimulated by the cold aura exuding from Lu Ping's body, causing her body to tremble. From afar, they could hear soft whispers in the reception room. The 3 women had already become a drama. However, after the sound of Lu Ping's footsteps, the reception room suddenly became silent. At this moment, Lu Ping's murderous aura soared into the sky, and there was even a faint trace of killing intent. The 4 people in the reception room could naturally feel it, and Lu Ping was the only one in the cave dwelling who could emit such an aura. Everyone in the reception room clearly realized something. Chapter 263. Every step Lu Ping took seemed to be stepping on the nodes of everyone's heartbeats, causing their hearts to involuntarily beat along with Lu Ping's footsteps. Lu Ping's aura rose with every step he took. A towering killing intent filled the room as Lu Ping entered. Lu Ping's gaze swept across the room, his sharp gaze like two sharp blades that wanted to pierce through everyone's hearts. Hong Ying's face paled and he involuntarily took a step back. Chu Ting and Li Xiuzhu's expressions turned solemn. Even Qi Lianying couldn't help but sit up straight and stare at Lu Ping. Did the two of you just say you wanted to challenge the trials? Lu Ping's voice was as calm and heavy as ever, without the slightest killing intent. Just as Li Xiuzhu was about to speak, Chu Ting suddenly thought of something and her expression changed. She pulled Li Xiuzhu back and said, "Brother Lu, the pill gathering has already started for 5 days. Tomorrow is the day when all the clans will compete in alchemy. However, Brother Lu is still in seclusion. Have you forgotten what you said? I only promised your Li clan to participate in the alchemy competition. Have you missed the right time?" Lu Ping knew that Chu Ting wanted to gain a foothold in the Dao gathering and destroy his own aura, but he didn't give her the chance to do so. He directly said, "Challenging the trials is like trying to stop someone from achieving the Dao. The two of you are deliberately trying to ruin my cultivation." Chu Ting snorted coldly and laughed. "Brother Lu thinks too highly of yourself. If it is because you are afraid, there is no need for you to participate in this pill gathering. You can just mention it directly. The Li clan is not a rude and unreasonable clan. Why must Brother Lu put on such a denouncing attitude? Don't tell me that we are afraid of Brother Lu." Chu Ting and Li Xiuzhu naturally knew what it meant to be a cultivator in closed-door cultivation. But Chu Ting still insisted on doing it. Other than the imminent alchemy gathering, the two of them still believed that Lu Ping was only a blood condensation realm cultivator. With their current core forging realm cultivation base and Chu Ting's expertise as an alchemy grandmaster, even if Lu Ping were to suffer from cultivation deviation due to the disturbance, the two of them would be able to save him unscathed. As soon as Chu Ting's voice fell, a powerful pressure pressed down on Chu Ting. Although Lu Ping had not reached the core forging realm, the strength of his divine sense was not any weaker than that of a second-stage core forging realm enlightened master. Chu Ting was also an alchemist, so her divine sense cultivation was naturally not weak. In addition, she had already reached the core forging realm, so her divine sense cultivation was comparable to that of a second-stage core forging realm enlightened master. When Lu Ping's divine sense pressure pressed down on her, she sneered in her heart. She secretly thought that Lu Ping was stupid. He had only cultivated this divine sense transformation technique for a few days, yet he dared to use it against her, who had also cultivated this technique and had already reached the gold core realm. However, Chu Ting's mocking expression immediately turned into one of shock. How was this possible? The pressure from Lu Ping's divine sense was not inferior to hers. While she was stunned, Lu Ping launched a preemptive strike and firmly suppressed Chu Ting's divine sense. After all, Chu Ting's cultivation was higher than Lu Ping's. Although her divine sense was suppressed by Lu Ping, she could still hold on. Lu Ping was also helpless in this situation. He did not know that at this time, Chu Ting's heart was already in turmoil. She had only taught him the divine sense transformation technique for a few days, but this person had not only completely transformed his divine sense into divine sense, but also had a degree of familiarity with the control and grasp of divine sense that was not inferior to her, who had already reached the gold core realm. Back then, Chu Ting herself had spent nearly half a year cultivating this divine sense transformation technique, and during that period, she had to slow down her cultivation speed several times because of the inhuman pain caused by cultivating this secret technique. After successfully cultivating this secret technique, it had taken her nearly a year to be able to fully control and use the divine sense that she had generated. The divine sense confrontation between the two had become more and more intense, but what was even more incredible was that Lu Ping actually had the upper hand in the confrontation. A divine sense pressure suddenly interfered in the confrontation between the two divine sense. Although this new divine sense pressure was not as strong as Lu Ping's and Chu Ting's, the divine sense contained a sharp qi, like a needle hidden in silk. It could not be underestimated. Li Xiuzhu intended to separate the two fighting. Although her ability was not above divine sense, she was a determined person. After reaching the gold core realm for a long time, her divine sense had also nurtured an unyielding sharpness. She was confident that if she caught them off guard, she should be able to break apart the divine sense of the two in one fell swoop. Lu Ping naturally knew Li Xiuzhu's plan, but Li Xiuzhu's relationship with Chu Ting made it impossible for her to be impartial when attacking the divine sense of the two, let alone when Lu Ping had the upper hand. Li Xiuzhu's divine sense rushed in, and the sharp qi inside pointed straight at Lu Ping. Lu Ping coldly snorted, and the divine sense suddenly changed. The wave-like attacks that rushed towards Chu Ting suddenly came to a halt. Chu Ting was overjoyed, and she hurriedly broke free from Lu Ping's suppression. However, Lu Ping's divine sense seemed to form a huge whirlpool above a vast ocean, as if it wanted to devour the entire world. This was the divine sense concept that Lu Ping had comprehended under the influence of the enchanting thought pill. Although Lu Ping could only display a small portion of it, Li Xiuzhu's divine sense was like a moth flying into a flame, and it broke free from her control. Amidst the loud explosion between the divine senses, Li Xiuzhu's sharp qi was devoured by Lu Ping's divine sense concept. Lu Ping's gaze coldly swept over the two people in front of him. Chu Ting's face was filled with fear, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Li Xiuzhu's divine sense had been forcibly dispersed by Lu Ping, and at this moment, he had a splitting headache, and faint traces of blood could be seen between his nose and mouth. Hong Ying's expression was filled with disbelief, but it was also mixed with an inexplicable excitement. Qi Lianying frowned, and no one knew what he was thinking. Today, seeing that the two of you are impatient about the pill meeting, I will treat this as a lesson to the two of you. If there is a next time, the two of you will die together. Don't say that I didn't warn you. Lu Ping slowly finished speaking and turned to leave. Just as he was about to take a step, he suddenly thought of something and said, "Tomorrow, the alchemy competition of the various families will be held. I will go myself, so there is no need for you two to come. My cave residence does not welcome you two." After Lu Ping left the reception room, Hong Ying apologetically smiled at the three people, and excitedly chased after Lu Ping. Only the three women remained in the room. Li Xiuzhu was as quiet as ever, and Chu Ting looked angry. Chu Ting had been accepted as a disciple by the middle-aged beauty of the Listening Sound small building since she was a child. For more than a decade, Chu Ting had always been a proud daughter of heaven in the eyes of others. Whether it was her cultivation or alchemy skills, she was an unparalleled existence among cultivators of the same level. In addition, she was intelligent and resourceful. She helped her master take care of the boudoir in an orderly manner. No matter where she went, she would be respected and looked up to. When had Chu Ting ever suffered such a big loss? Not only was she criticized in public, but she also lost to a cultivator whose cultivation was far lower than hers. Moreover, she was threatened with death by this person. It took Chu Ting a long time to break free from the shadow of this defeat. Thinking about Lu Ping's words, Chu Ting was so angry that she laughed. She looked at Qi Lianying and said, "Good, good. There is actually someone who dares to threaten me like this. I want to see how he will kill me." Chu Ting stood up and was about to chase after Lu Ping, but she felt something tighten behind her. Li Xiuzhu had unknowingly grabbed her clothes. Chu Ting turned her head and said, "Junior Marshal Sister Li, let go. Today, we must let this person know the true power of a core forging enlightened master. Don't think that you have the qualifications to challenge a core forging enlightened master just because you have cultivated the divine sense transformation technique. I want to let this person know that the gap between the core forging realm and the blood condensation realm cannot be filled with divine sense. If I were you, I wouldn't ask for trouble." "What?" Chu Ting stopped and looked at Qi Lianying. She didn't know when, but Qi Lianying had returned to his lazy expression. He patted his cherry lips and walked out while yawning. Before he left, Qi Lianying looked back and said, "He can really do it. He can really do it." Chu Ting stared blankly at Qi Lianying who was walking away. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. Her mind was blank. Only Qi Lianying's words before he left echoed in her mind, he can really do it. He can really do it. Li Maolin laughed and said, Niece Chu Ting is ill, so she won't be able to come and enjoy the competition. Lu Ping nodded expressionlessly. Lu Ping clearly understood that it was naturally because of yesterday's matter that the two of them had become enemies. Naturally, out of sight, out of mind. Obviously, Li Maolin already knew about this matter. Li Xiuzhu glanced at Lu Ping and saw him following behind Li Maolin expressionlessly towards the towering Qianyuan mountain. After thinking for a while, he didn't say anything in the end. He silently followed behind Lu Ping with Qi Lianying. Isn't this brother Li of the Sanjia Island? You've come to the elixir gathering early this time. A middle-aged scholar with 3 strands of long beard slowly came from the side with a few people. Oh, it's Brother Shangguan. Brother Shangguan is representing your family this time. I'm afraid that you're determined to promote your family to a mid-sized force, right? My Li family can't be compared to the Shangguan family. Who knows, maybe this elixir gathering will be replaced by Brother Shangguan's family. Coming early is just like a clumsy bird flying early. Li Maolin's complexion slightly changed when he saw the people who had come. However, he still went up to greet them and chatted wittily with them. Brother Li's family is also not bad. I heard that 2 years ago, my niece and one of the family's consecrators both advanced to the core forging stage. The strength of Brother Li's family has greatly improved. I wonder which alchemy expert Brother Li invited to participate in this elixir gathering. Li Maolin only brought a few people with him. The eyes of the Shangguan clan's patriarch only lingered on Lu Ping and Qi Lianying. It's just a little help. After all, both of them have just advanced and are women. They can't be compared to Shangguan Hao. I heard that his cultivation has reached the 2nd layer of the core forging realm. Now, he is taking care of the family affairs for Shangguan Hao. Uncle Li, you flatter me. I'm just doing odd jobs for my father. A handsome young man behind the Shangguan clan's patriarch, whose eyes hadn't left Li Xiuzhu since the beginning, hastily replied respectfully. Li Xiuzhu couldn't help but frown when he saw this person. Brother Li, have you considered the matter I mentioned to you last time? The master of the Shangguan family asked with a smile that concealed a dagger. My son and Brother Li's daughter are a match made in heaven. Their families are well matched. This time, our Shangguan family is determined to become one of the 36 mid-sized families. When the time comes, our families will join hands. Even if Brother Li's family is reduced to a small-sized family, the Zhang family and the Wang family of the 3 families island won't dare to do anything. Li Maolin muttered, Brother Shangguan, are you sure you can become a medium-sized clan this time? Of course. The Shangguan clan's patriarch said confidently, our Shangguan clan has 5 core forging stage cultivators and 2 mid-core forging stage cultivators. It can be said that our Shangguan clan has already reached the standard of a medium-sized clan. The only thing we lack is the status of the elixir gathering. Furthermore, our Shangguan clan is fortunate enough to invite Master Yu to help us. The Shangguan clan's patriarch pointed at an arrogant old man behind him and introduced him to Li Maolin. Li Maolin's expression changed, and he asked in surprise, Are you old Mr. Yu Jiangrui? When the arrogant old man heard Li Maolin, who was a core forging enlightened master, address him as Mr., he nodded his head in satisfaction, but didn't say anything. When Li Xiuzhu, who was standing beside Lu Ping, heard the Shangguan clan's patriarch talking about the marriage between the 2 clans, his expression turned gloomy, as if he was unwilling to do so. When he heard the name Yu Jiangrui, his face was filled with surprise. Lu Ping didn't know Yu Jiangrui's background. Qi Lianying, who was standing beside him, explained in a low voice, Yu Jiangrui has been practicing alchemy for more than 100 years. He's always been one step away from becoming an alchemist master because he's never been able to break through to the core forging stage. However, he's quite famous in the Northern Alliance because he's refined dozens of half-step core forging stage pills. His success rate is even higher than some alchemist masters. Therefore, he's always considered as the #1 alchemist below alchemist masters. When Lu Ping heard this, he was quite surprised. Lu Ping had refined less than 10 kinds of half-step core forging stage pills. He couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as Yu Jiangrui. Li Maolin thought for a moment and then said, "Marriage, although it is decided by the parents, but whether the two people are in love with each other is more important. If nephew Shengguan can win my daughter's heart, I have nothing to say. However, this time, my Li clan might be able to keep our position as one of the 36 clans." When the Shengguan clan's patriarch heard this, his expression changed. No one saw Li Xiuzhu's expression just now. Li Maolin's words were a clear rejection of the marriage between the two clans. At this moment, Yu Jiangrui, who had been standing beside the Shengguan clan's patriarch, pointed at Lu Ping and suddenly said, "Patriarch Li, are you relying on this brat for the alchemy gathering?" Chapter 265. Lu Ping was baffled. The Shengguan clan and the Li clan's patriarchs were secretly fighting against each other, but he was dragged into it as well. This elder Yu was also very strange. He didn't know what his motive was, but he was actually targeting Lu Ping directly. The Shengguan clan patriarch didn't respond to Yu Jiangrui's words, but Li Maolin was shocked. Although this elder Yu's alchemy skills were superb, he had taken the wrong path in his early years of cultivation, so he had no hope of breaking through to the core forging realm in the future. His alchemy skills were limited by his cultivation. Although he was very familiar with refining half-step core forging realm pills, and even the success rate of Grandmaster alchemists was inferior to him, he was still unable to successfully refine a core forging realm pill. He would forever lose the title of Grandmaster alchemist. In his despair, Yu Jiangrui easily developed a strange habit. He always treated young cultivators and alchemists with disdain, and even ridiculed them. As for those cultivators who were known as geniuses, he was extremely jealous of them. It was as if he wanted to blame the reason why he couldn't break through to the core forging realm and become a Grandmaster alchemist. He was even more passionate about destroying the self-confidence and self-esteem of these cultivators. Alchemists had their own methods. While the Shengguan clan patriarch was still trying to figure out who was the expert alchemist invited by the Li clan, between Lu Ping and Qi Lianying, Yu Jiangrui had already discovered Lu Ping's identity as an alchemist. Alchemists who were qualified to participate in the elixir gathering had to at least be familiar with refining late blood condensation realm pills. If they didn't want to be ridiculed, they had to successfully refine half-step core forging realm pills. From Yu Jiangrui's point of view, Lu Ping was at most 30 years old. Not only was his cultivation at the peak of the blood condensation realm, but his alchemy skills were also very good. Once he advanced to the core forging realm, it was almost certain that he would become a Grandmaster alchemist. How could he not be jealous? So when he heard the conversation between the Shengguan clan patriarch and Li Maolin, he immediately vented his jealousy on Lu Ping. Li Maolin was afraid that Lu Ping would fall for Yu Jiangrui's provocation. With Yu Jiangrui's decades of experience in refining half-step core forging realm pills, Lu Ping would naturally be no match for him. At that time, not only would Lu Ping be humiliated, but it would also affect Lu Ping's performance in the elixir gathering. Li Maolin wanted to remind or even stop Lu Ping. However, the interaction between alchemists was obviously not something that other cultivators could casually interfere in. Otherwise, they would inevitably offend one of the parties. If he helped Lu Ping, the Li family would undoubtedly incur the jealousy of a narrow-minded alchemist. If he did not stop Yu Jiangrui, the elixir gathering was just around the corner. Once Lu Ping lost, it would affect the elixir gathering's competition. That would be terrible. The Li family would not only be reduced to a small-sized faction, but the Zhang family and the Wang family would also take half of the profits from the Nameless Island. Lu Ping did not speak. He wanted to see what Li Maolin could do for him. Li Maolin hesitated for a while. Then he said, "Mr. Yu, the elixir gathering is just around the corner. If you two want to compete, you will have plenty of time to do it after the elixir gatherings competition. What do you think?" Li Maolin had decided to get rid of Lu Ping in the end. At least, he wanted to distance himself from Lu Ping after the elixir gathering. Lu Ping narrowed his eyes and did not speak. Qi Lianying sighed softly beside Lu Ping, while Li Xiuzhu's face was a little red. "That's not necessary." Yu Jiangrui sneered. "Isn't the elixir gathering a ready-made opportunity? I heard that other than dealing with the rise and fall of the Li clan's influence, the elixir gathering will also decide the respective shares of the spiritual mineral vein on the nameless island. I think there's no harm in adding another bet. If this fellow ranks higher than the old man in the competition among the 126 alchemists, the old man will naturally have nothing to say. If he ranks lower than the old man, he will apologize to the old man in front of everyone and admit that his alchemy skills are far inferior to the old man's. In return, the Li clan will marry their daughter to the Shangguan clan as their daughter-in-law. What do you think?" The alchemy furnace was the foundation of an alchemist. Losing the alchemy furnace was the greatest humiliation for an alchemist. The alchemist who lost the alchemy furnace would not be able to refine pills for others for the rest of his life, until he could take revenge on the person who defeated him. If the greatest hatred in the cultivation world was preventing one from achieving Tao, then destroying someone else's alchemy furnace would be the second greatest hatred for alchemists. This was not giving Lu Ping any leeway. For alchemists, this was a situation where they would not rest until they were dead. Li Maolin said bitterly, "Mr. Yu's condition, it's a deal." Li Maolin turned his head abruptly when he heard this. His daughter, who always listened to him, actually agreed on his behalf. Li Maolin did not know how to react for a moment. Then, he heard the Shangguan clan head laughing loudly, "My dear niece is indeed generous. Don't worry, as long as you become my daughter-in-law, I will definitely not treat you badly. Even if the Li clan is reduced to a small clan, with the help of my Shangguan clan, the Li clan will still be as stable as Mount Tai on the Three Clans Island." The Zhang clan has a late blood condensation cultivator cultivating on Shenyuan Mountain, and my Shangguan clan also has a son-in-law who is a disciple of Fa Xiang Laozu on Shenyuan Mountain. The Zhang clan might not dare to provoke our Shangguan clan. Shangguan Hao, who was at the side, looked at Li Xiuzhu happily. From his point of view, this was proof that Li Xiuzhu had secretly fallen in love with him. The main reason why he and Li Xiuzhu couldn't become cultivation companions was because of Li Maolin's obstruction. Otherwise, Li Xiuzhu wouldn't have agreed to Senior Yu's bet even though she knew she would lose. This time, not only would Sister Xiuzhu become his cultivation companion, but the Shangguan clan would also have a legitimate reason to intervene in the Three Clans Islands affairs. Among the Li clan's younger generation, Li Xiuzhu was the only talent. The others were nothing to worry about. Once Li Xiuzhu became the Shangguan clan's daughter-in-law, as the Shangguan clan's power grew, the Li clan would slowly become the Shangguan clan's vassal, and the Li clan's cultivation resources would be used by the Shangguan clan. Not to mention the share of the spirit or vein that was coveted by the Northern Alliance's major clans. Ignoring Shangguan Hao's new plan, Li Maolin said anxiously, "You, why are you doing this? If the Li clan is reduced to a small clan, there's no such thing as a marriage alliance." Li Xiuzhu said calmly, "Father, I'm just confident in Brother Lu." Li Maolin was stunned when he heard this. Only then did he remember that he was just thinking about the family's gains and losses. He had forgotten that Lu Ping was the Li clan's key in this elixir meeting. Li Maolin was blindly trying to avoid conflict, as if he was certain that Lu Ping would definitely lose in the elixir meeting. At this moment, Shangguan Hao, who was feeling superior just a moment ago, felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over him from head to toe. The way he looked at Lu Ping gradually became fierce, and the corners of his eyes twitched. Lu Ping's senses were very sharp. When Shangguan Hao's aura changed, Lu Ping noticed it. He glanced at Shangguan Hao, but Lu Ping didn't take it to heart at all. Lu Ping's glance made Sheng Wanhao feel like he was being ignored. For a genius like him, he had always been the center of attention since he was young. For someone like him, being ignored meant being looked down upon. A blood condensation minor repairs cultivator dared to look down upon a core forging stage cultivator. He was simply courting death. Chapter 266. Li Maolin was thinking about how to explain to Lu Ping. If Lu Ping was so angry that he deliberately lied about an accidental pill explosion during the elixir meet, and the Li family's result would be 0, there would really be no room for redemption. Looking at Li Maolin's hesitant expression, Lu Ping did not take it seriously at all. Instead, he admired Li Shouju's courage, so he smiled and said, "Senior, you only said what I and the Li family would have to do if you won, but you did not say what you and the Shengguan family would have to do if I won by luck." Lu Ping's words seemed to make Yu Jiangrui and the Shengguan family master laugh at each other. The two of them looked at each other and laughed. The Shengguan family master shook his head hypocritically and said with a pitiful expression, "This young friend's ambition is commendable, but it is better to be humble and cautious. This time, Senior Yu will teach you a lesson. You will definitely benefit from it in the future." From his words, it seemed that he had already determined that Lu Ping would definitely lose, and did not take Lu Ping seriously at all. Lu Ping was not angry, and he still said with a smile, "Senior, why don't you tell me what I should do if I lose?" Sheng Wanhao didn't like Lu Ping from the side, and when he saw Lu Ping pestering him like this, he immediately flew into a rage and said, "Kid, do you really think you're someone important? You're just a little alchemist, you're just like an ant, how dare you bargain with Master Yu and my Shengguan clan?" Lu Ping did not say anything when he heard this, but looked at Yu Jiangrui with a cold smile. Yu Jiangrui's face immediately turned red. Yu Jiangrui's original intention was only to threaten Lu Ping. He believed that with his status as the #1 alchemy master in the Northern Alliance, he would definitely make Lu Ping back off and apologize to him. As long as he vented the jealousy in his heart, his vanity would be satisfied, and he would not continue to make things difficult for Lu Ping. However, what he didn't expect was that not only did Li Maolin's daughter accept the bet, but the young man in front of him also began to be arrogant. In the end, Sheng Wanhao of the Shengguan family made him even angrier. Lu Ping's sneer was actually forcing him to take a stand. Yu Jiangrui had no choice but to let out a cold snort and said, "Shengguan clan leader, although I, Yu Jiangrui, have received help from the Shengguan clan many times, it's better for your son to speak less in the future." Could it be that alchemists are really like ants in the eyes of the Shengguan clan? Sheng Wanhao was stunned. He didn't know why Senior Yu, who had always been kind to him, suddenly turned against him and blamed him. Sheng Wanhao didn't understand, but it didn't mean that his father was ignorant. Alchemists were a group of practitioners that couldn't be judged by common sense. They could undermine each other, fight among themselves, and look down on others, but they never allowed outsiders to say anything bad about alchemists. Otherwise, they would attack together. One alchemist was not terrible, but the network behind this alchemist was terrible, and a group of alchemists could cause a commotion in the whole cultivation world. Shengguan clan leader turned to Sheng Wanhao and scolded, "Boy, how can you, a junior, talk about alchemists? Don't say such words again in the future." After a pause, as if he was worried, he added, "Even if you have this thought, you can't have it." Sheng Wanhao was scolded for no reason, and Qi Lianying had already laughed heartlessly at the side. He didn't put Sheng Wanhao, a perfected master, in his eyes at all. Even Li Shouju, who always had a ladylike demeanor, couldn't help but smile. This made Sheng Wanhao, who was on the side, even more ashamed and angry. At this time, Yu Jiangrui, who was forced by Lu Ping's words, was also in a dilemma. Yu Jiangrui didn't expect Lu Ping to be more extreme than him. He really wanted to use the alchemy furnace as a bet. Yu Jiangrui didn't think for too long. He had no reason to lose to a young alchemist. He was the one who started this. Once he backed down, how could he endure it? What's more, at this time, cultivators from other forces began to pass by. They didn't expect to encounter such a good show as soon as they arrived at Chenyuan Mountain. They stopped and pointed at the cultivators on both sides, especially Yu Jiangrui and Lu Ping. At this time, they had become the target of criticism. However, Yu Jiangrui's reputation was obviously not small. Almost all the representatives of the forces knew him. Naturally, in the eyes of most people, Lu Ping was undoubtedly an ant trying to shake a tree, a hot-blooded young cultivator who overestimated himself. Therefore, Yu Jiangrui was not in a dilemma, but he was in a dilemma. Once he backed down today, there would be no place for him in Donghai in the future. Well, if the old man loses, you can smash the old man's alchemy furnace. The old man will never refine pills for others again. Yu Jiangrui made up his mind and said loudly as if he was swearing something. His old face turned red. Among the cultivators who passed by to watch the show, some people who wanted to see the world in chaos even shouted loudly, causing the cultivators who went up the mountain from other directions to look at them. Yu Jiangrui, who was known as the #1 alchemist below the master alchemist, and an unknown alchemist named Lu Jiu, who represented the Li family of Sanjia Island, made a cauldron-smashing agreement between alchemists. This news instantly spread to all the major forces on Chenyuan Mountain. Lu Jiu's name was also known to the people of the Northern Alliance for the first time. Lu Ping smiled. He didn't have the awareness that an alchemist would attach importance to a cauldron-smashing agreement. Instead, he turned to the master of Shengguan family, who was a little stunned because the development of the situation was beyond his expectations, and said, "What did the master of Shengguan family say?" The master of Shengguan family was like an arrow on a bowstring. He had no choice but to release it. If the Shengguan family wanted to have a foothold in the Northern Alliance in the future, this bet today couldn't be avoided. The master of Shengguan family was someone who was able to let go of things easily. Moreover, compared to the cauldron-smashing agreement, the bet between the Shengguan family and the Li family was really nothing. The fallen mystery land is under the control of the Shengguan family. There is a small vein of high-grade spiritual material, lava rock. If the Shengguan family wins this time, this vein will be the betrothal gift for Ni Xiuzhu. If the Shengguan family loses, this vein will naturally belong to the Li family. When the cultivators in the audience saw the master of Shengguan family being so straightforward, they all cheered. Shengguan Hao was very anxious. How could anyone make a losing deal like this? He couldn't help but say, "Father, shut up." The master of Shengguan family shouted in a low voice. Senior brother Qi, the alchemist of the Li family, is too arrogant. Yu Jiangrui is known as the #1 alchemist below the master alchemist. How could an alchemist who popped out of nowhere compare to him? It seems like the Li family is too arrogant in this elixir gathering. Wang Yishan looked at Li Maolin, Xiu Zhu, and Lu Ping in the distance with a gloating expression. "Humph, how can you still laugh? The Shengguan family doesn't have any good intentions. The Shengguan family is growing stronger, and it's already a matter of time before they become a medium-sized power. The Li family has declined, and they don't have any talented descendants. Only Li Xiuzhu can still hold the fort. Once the Li family loses, Li Xiuzhu will become the daughter-in-law of the Shengguan family. With the Shengguan family as their backing, what can the Wang family and the Zhang family gain? Why does Li Maolin look so unwilling? Isn't this beneficial to the Li family?" Wang Yishan asked embarrassedly. Senior brother Qi was too lazy to explain. He looked at the other side. The elixir gathering was not going to be simple. The Li family was just an interlude. Chapter 267. At the entrance of the Chenyuan Hall on the mountainside of Chenyuan Mountain, a young man in plain clothes was flanked by a man and a woman. They were Zhang Xingqian and Zhang Xingkuan from the Zhang family of Sanjia Island. The three of them were standing at a high place overlooking the various forces that were climbing up the mountain like ants. Naturally, the three of them had seen what happened between Lu Ping and Yu Jiangrui. Loose cultivators are just a group of frogs at the bottom of a well. They think that they can refine a few half-step core forging pills and they can laugh proudly at the Northern Alliance. They don't know that compared to senior brother Ye's alchemy skills, they are just a joke of the Northern Alliance. Junior sister Zhang, you can't say that. Don't forget that our Northern Alliance was originally developed by loose cultivators. The purpose of the Northern Alliance is to unite the loose cultivators within the Northern Alliance to protect ourselves. The major forces are only developed by the Northern Alliance to control the Northern Alliance's sphere of influence. Most of the cultivators on Chenyuan Mountain are loose cultivators, especially the few Laozu. If these words were to reach their ears, even with the protection of Uncle Zhang Wuduan, your Zhang family will still be blamed by the Northern Alliance. You might even implicate Uncle Zhang Wuduan's position in Chenyuan Mountain. Zhang Xingquan's face turned red from the words of the senior brother in the middle. Zhang Xingqian, who was next to him, quickly changed the topic. Senior brother Yi, in your opinion, who has a higher chance of winning the cauldron smashing agreement? It's hard to say. Although Yu Jiangrui's cultivation method is closely related to his alchemy skills, he can't become an alchemy master if he can't advance to the core forging stage. However, his attainments in refining half-step core forging pills are something that even master admires. The Li family's alchemist is a little reckless. However, seeing that he has made the cauldron smashing agreement without fear, it's hard to say what trump cards he has. When the Zhang siblings heard the first part of senior brother Ye's words, their faces were first filled with joy. However, when they heard the second part of senior brother Ye's words, the siblings looked at each other and became a little suspicious. Senior brother Yi seemed to know what the two of them were thinking, so he said, among the three of you, the Li family is the weakest. Even if you win this elixir gathering, apart from keeping your status as a mid-sized force, you will only get an extra 100,000 spirit stones from the spiritual mineral vein every year. It doesn't matter. With Martial Uncle Zhang looking after you, will the Zhang family still care about 100,000 spirit stones? The ones we should be paying attention to are the Wang clan. Wang clan. Zhang Xingquan was confused and said, the Wang family should be in trouble now. They are not allowed to join the Northern Alliance and have offended the Crystal Palace. They should be in trouble now. What trouble can they make? Therefore, the Wang family needs to rely on a force to consolidate their position. As far as I know, the alchemist representing the Wang family this time is really not weak. Zhang Xingqian had been frowning and suddenly said, could it be the Crystal Palace again? Impossible. The Zhang siblings had a rare disagreement. Zhang Xingquan shook his head and said, not to mention that the Wang family has already offended the Crystal Palace. Even if the Wang family is thick-skinned enough to beg again, with the status of the Crystal Palace, would they care about the Wang family? Zhang Xingqian sighed and said, sister, was Wang Yishan expelled from the Crystal Palace after the incident? Zhang Xingquan was stunned and said, indeed. Could it be that the Wang family and the Crystal Palace put on a show for the Northern Alliance in advance? Or is it that the Crystal Palace wants to hint something through Wang Yishan? But then she shook her head and said, that's not right. This time, the Crystal Palace also sent an alchemist to represent the Crystal Palace in this alchemy gathering. If that's the case, how can they help the Wang family? The senior brother Yi, who was hit by the sword, said slowly, 2 alchemists, the Crystal Palace has brought 2 alchemists. One of them came anonymously. I heard that the alchemist master of the Crystal Palace, Kunshan Town, is also coming to watch the ceremony in the Fallen Mystery Land. However, his personal disciple who stays with him all the time is not here. The Zhang siblings' faces finally became serious. After a while, it was the younger sister, Zhang Xingquan, who was a little impatient, who asked, Senior brother Yi has been under Martial Uncle Qin's tutelage for a long time and has received all the teachings of Jinren Qin. Against the disciple of Jinren Kunshan, I think he has a good chance of winning. Senior brother Yi heard this and said seriously, although I don't think I'm weaker than the disciple of Jinren Kunshan, if I want to win, it's only a 50-50 chance. We'll only know after the competition.
However, what I'm worried about is not the competition between the forces, but the alchemists from the sects other than the Northern Alliance. Zhang Xingqian was stunned and said, other than the Northern Alliance, the alchemists from the sects of the East Sea to watch the ceremony and exchange will be the personal disciples that they focus on training? Senior brother Yi said seriously, that's right. Other than the Crystal Palace, Purple Talisman Pavilion, Wind Thunder Island, and Skyrend, the three sects of the East Sea that are named after the Northern Alliance will also send their elite alchemists for exchange. This alchemy gathering is full of strangeness. I'm afraid that the sects will not come with good intentions. Zhang Xingqian was a little worried and said, then, Senior Brother Yi, do you have the confidence to win against the alchemists from these sects? Senior Brother Yi smiled bitterly and said, although I think I'm obsessed with alchemy, my alchemy skills are still far from Senior Brother Zhou Chuang's. Zhang Xingqian said happily, Senior Brother Zhou Chuang. The Senior Brother Zhou Chuang who broke the rules and became the disciple of the alchemy grandmaster Hongye Laozu. Seeing the complicated look in his eyes, he nodded and said, in this situation, the Northern Alliance can only send Senior Brother Zhou Chuang to compete with the alchemists from the sects of the East Sea. Zhang Xingqian clapped his hands and said, that's great. I've long heard that Senior Brother Zhou Chuang is the alchemy genius of the Northern Alliance. With him, we'll definitely have nothing to worry about. On the mountainside of Qianyuan Mountain, the Qianyuan Hall was built to be extremely grand and spacious. Even the 126 big and small forces of the Northern Alliance couldn't fill up this magnificent hall. Lu Ping followed Li Maolin and took a seat in the middle of the hall. Lu Ping turned a deaf ear to the comments of the outsiders and looked indifferent. However, Lu Ping's divine sense did not relax for even a moment. He was constantly paying attention to the alchemists of the major forces in the hall. This was the first time that Lu Ping had seen so many alchemists gathered together. Although the rules of the conference stated that the alchemists who participated in this competition must be below the core forging stage, who could guarantee that there were no hidden dragons and crouching tigers among them? While Lu Ping was observing others, others were also observing him. That smashing the furnace was known as a duel between alchemists. In the eyes of outsiders, regardless of the level of Lu Ping's alchemy skills, this agreement alone was enough to attract too much attention. Lu Ping naturally paid more attention to the alchemists of the Zhang and Wang families. Sitting next to a core forging stage cultivator of the Zhang family was a young cultivator dressed in plain clothes. It was the previous Senior Brother Yi. The Zhang siblings were sitting behind the two of them. Seeing Lu Ping's gaze sweeping over, Senior Brother Yi seemed to feel it and looked back at Lu Ping's gaze. The two of them nodded slightly and smiled. When Lu Ping's gaze turned to the direction of the Wang family, Lu Ping couldn't help but be startled. Lu Ping was very familiar with this alchemist. Chapter 268. The Wang family's pill refiner was actually Crystal Palace's senior martial brother Qi. He was the person Lu Ping met when he first snuck into the Land of 100 Flowers on the Nameless Island. Lu Ping didn't expect him to represent the Wang family in this pill gathering. Lu Ping whispered to Li Maolin, does family head Li know the background of the Wang family's pill refiner? Li Maolin was stunned and turned to look at senior martial brother Qi. He knew that Lu Ping wouldn't mention this person for no reason, so he asked, little brother Lu, is there something wrong with this person? Lu Ping and Li Maolin deliberately muffled their conversation. Other than the two of them, Li Xiuzhu and Qi Lianying, no one else could hear their conversation. Do you remember the silver fur cultivator from the mortal market on the Three Clans Island? Lu Ping turned to ask Li Xiuzhu. It's him. Li Xiuzhu said in surprise, did he bring an artifact to hide his appearance? How can brother Lu be so sure that it's him? Lu Ping naturally wouldn't tell them that he snuck into the Nameless Island. He only said, I met this person's true appearance by chance, so I know him. Li Xiuzhu naturally knew what it meant if the Wang family's pill refiner was really the silver fur cultivator from the mortal market on the Three Clans Island.
The Crystal Palace and the Wang family hadn't severed their relationship like on the surface. At this moment, the Chenyuan Mountain Northern Alliance cultivator in charge of welcoming the guests suddenly shouted, "Purple Talisman Pavilion's Daoist Yuhai is here with his disciples to attend the gathering." Lu Ping looked up and saw a fair-skinned, beardless cultivator leading a few blood condensation realm cultivators into the hall. The cultivators from the various forces who knew this enlightened Master Yuhai quickly stepped forward to greet him. Enlightened Master Yuhai was a smooth talker and he chatted happily with the representatives from the various forces. He was very popular among the cultivators. Lu Ping didn't know this Daoist Yuhai's background and couldn't help but ask, "This Daoist Yuhai seems to have a lot of friends. So many people know him." Li Maolin looked at him strangely, then said enviously, "This is the scary thing about you pill refiners. Everywhere you go, you are the guests of the various forces, and there are always people who try to curry favor with you. Moreover, this is a pill refiner master, and a pill refiner master from the Purple Talisman Pavilion, one of East Sea's 5 sections." Lu Ping nodded thoughtfully. Then, the welcoming cultivator announced, "Enlightened Master Feng Lianying of Wind and Thunder Island is here with her disciples to attend the ceremony." Everyone exchanged greetings, then Lu Ping turned and Li Daoist Li Feng Master is Das. Li Daoist Palace, 1 Feng Li of Master. Li Maolin nodded silently. Both of them looked towards the door at the same time. Indeed, a moment later, Sage Ji Yayuan of the Sky Fisher Sword Sect is here to witness the ceremony with her disciples. This time, it wasn't just Lu Ping and Li Maolin, but the other cultivators in the hall also felt something was amiss. Why did the East Ocean sects send out famous alchemy grandmasters to attend the alchemy meet? Crystal Palace's Daoist Kunshan is here with his disciples to attend the gathering. Daoist Kunshan's arrival was obviously not as welcome as the previous 3 Daoists. It wasn't that the major forces didn't want to curry favor with him, but because of the matter of the mineral vein on the Nameless Island. The relationship between the Northern Alliance and the Crystal Palace was at a delicate stage. Naturally, no force would be stupid enough to offend the Northern Alliance at this time. Daoist Kunshan didn't care. He just nodded to some familiar cultivators and led his disciples to the seats of honor in the hall with the other 3 sections. Just as the cultivators in the hall were talking about the appearance of the pill refiner masters, an inexplicable aura suddenly filled the hall. The core forging cultivators in the hall were the first to notice it, followed by some of the pill refiners who participated in the gathering. Lu Ping also felt this wonderful aura after Li Maolin noticed it. It was as if a kind of harvest and killing aura coexisted, reminding Lu Ping of the autumn in Middle-earth. This wondrous state was like a divine ability, dragging everyone into a contradictory state of perceiving the aura of life and death. After that, the other alchemists and cultivators also discovered this wondrous aura, and they were all immersed in the atmosphere of perceiving the mysteries of this aura. After a while, this wonderful atmosphere suddenly disappeared. Lu Ping opened his eyes and saw an unprepossessing old man with his hands behind his back. As if he was taking a stroll, he leisurely walked in from outside the hall, ignoring the hundreds of cultivators on both sides. 2 cultivators followed behind him, one on the left and one on the right. One of them had a graceful bearing, clearly a core forging cultivator. The other cultivator was about the same age as Lu Ping. His eyes were always filled with a kind of eagerness. His gaze was filled with provocation and excitement. His threatening aura probed the cultivators sitting on both sides. Many of the pill refiners didn't dare to look at the young cultivator's fierce gaze. Some of them forced themselves to look at him, but their eyes were filled with vigilance. The young cultivator curled his lips in disdain and continued to follow the old man. When the young cultivator looked at Lu Ping smiled back at him. The young cultivator suddenly felt as if his eyes had fallen into a bottomless abyss, an emptiness that made him feel as if he was stuck in a bottomless abyss, unable to rise or fall. The young cultivator's interest was piqued and he smiled back at Lu Ping. His eyes conveyed a message, "You're an opponent I'm looking forward to meeting." The core forging enlightened master beside the young cultivator seemed to have sensed something. He glanced at the young cultivator and then at Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping had already lowered his head and started sipping on his spirit tea, while the old man continued to stroll towards the front of the hall as if he was taking a stroll. The three of them walked at a moderate pace. Along the way, the young cultivator unscrupulously provoked the pill refiners on both sides with his aggressive gaze, looking for an opponent he was interested in. He ignored the angry glares of others. When the old man reached the front of the hall and sat directly on the main seat, everyone realized that the three of them were cultivators from the Northern Alliance's Chenyuan Mountain. At this point, the representatives of the 5 great sects of the Eastern Sea had gathered in the Chenyuan Great Hall. At this moment, perfected Kunshan of the Crystal Palace, perfected Yuhai of the Purple Talisman Pavilion, perfected Feng Lianying of the Wind and Thunder Island, and perfected Ji Yayuang of the Skyren sect, who were sitting in the main seat, stood up at the same time and bowed to the old man. Junior greets Hongye Laozu. Laozu. Fa Xiang Laozu. The only pill refinement grandmaster of the Northern Alliance, Hongye Laozu. The cultivators from the great sects in the hall were shocked. This quiet, unprepossessing old man who looked like an old fisherman was actually one of the few pill refinement grandmasters of the Eastern Sea? Everyone stood up one after another. For a moment, the hall was quite chaotic. The cultivators who bowed to Hongye Laozu rose one after another and greeted him with all kinds of greetings. Lu Ping also could not hide the excitement in his heart. He stood up with Li Maolin and the others and respectfully greeted Hongye Daoist. Get up, all of you. No need to be so polite. A calm and warm voice rang in Lu Ping's ears. Chapter 269. This was the first time Lu Ping had seen Dharma form Laozu. Lu Ping had seen the power of Dharma form Laozu before. For example, when the North Sea Demon Clan launched a sneak attack on Jinling and Xianling's sect, Jinling's Dharma form Laozu, the Wind and Snow Immortals, appeared. Wind, frost, snow, and rain fell from the sky, freezing the sea. Also, when perfected Jiang Xianlin achieved Dharma form, a huge spiritual energy vortex was formed at the peak of Tianling Mountain. For such an existence, Lu Ping could only express his admiration and admiration. The Northern Alliance's celebration was originally handed over to Marshal Nephew Qin Su to host, but with the arrival of the alchemy masters from Crystal Palace, Purple Talisman Pavilion, Wind and Thunder Island and Skyrend, Marshal Nephew Qin Su had no choice but to summon this old bag of bones from Chenyuan Mountain again. As soon as Hongye Laozu finished speaking, the perfected person next to Hongye Laozu smiled apologetically and awkwardly at everyone in the hall. With his identity as an alchemy master, it was enough for him to host the elixir gatherings of the Northern Alliance. However, the other 4 sects of the East Sea had sent for alchemy masters whose positions were not lower than his. As the host of this elixir gathering, perfected person Qin Su had no choice but to invite his semi-retired martial uncle, the only alchemy grandmaster in the Northern Alliance, Hongye Laozu, to suppress the situation. The Water Crystal Palace's enlightened Kun Shan stood up and said, "We are very happy that Brother Qin was able to invite the old ancestor over. If we can receive a few pointers from the old ancestor, we might owe Brother Qin a big favor." The alchemy grandmasters from the Purple Talisman Pavilion, Wind and Thunder Island, and Sky-Splitting Sword sect also chimed in. Obviously, the appearance of the Red Leaf ancestor had shocked these alchemy grandmasters, but at the same time, they were delighted. Hongye Laozu pointed at the 4 alchemy masters and laughed. "The 4 of you are all clever. Do you think the old man doesn't know what you are thinking?" Hongye Laozu's pun made the alchemy masters from the 4 sects laugh awkwardly. Some of the sharp-minded cultivators in the hall had already realized that something unusual was going to happen in today's elixir gathering. Before the alchemy gathering, the various powers of the Northern Alliance would be evaluated by the high-level cultivators of Chenyuan Mountain. Each power was then divided into 3 ranks, large, medium, and small. For example, the Leaf family was ranked 29th among the medium powers.
The 12 medium powers in the lower ranks had to compete for the 6 spots that would prevent them from being demoted to small powers through the performance of the alchemy masters in the alchemy gathering. The 6 vacated medium powers would then be decided by the 12 large powers among the small powers. In the same way, the 3 large forces that failed to be selected would also be fought over by the 6 lower-class forces. The vacated spots would be filled by the 3 winning forces from the 6 upper-class forces. Of course, this did not mean that there was no need for the mid-tier forces among the various forces to participate in the elixir gathering. This was because the performance of the various forces in the elixir gathering would directly become one of the standards for re-evaluating their ranks in the next elixir gathering. Hongye Laozu signaled Immortal Qin to announce the beginning of the elixir gathering. Before the elixir gathering began, Immortal Qin first explained the rules of the elixir gathering. Then, with a hint of encouragement, he said, "For the celebration of this elixir gathering, all the spirit herbs that you need to refine the pills will be provided by the Northern Alliance." Not only that, the Northern Alliance has also prepared generous rewards for all the alchemists. Those who are in the top 32 of this elixir gathering will be able to choose an inheritance jade slip from the elixir building of the Northern Alliance. If you are in the top 16, you will be able to see the alchemy knowledge left by the previous generations of alchemists in the elixir building of the Northern Alliance. When the people in the hall heard about the rewards for the top 32, they all felt that it was just a so-so. Although the elixir building of the elixir building was precious, as long as an alchemist reached the level of an alchemy grandmaster, there would naturally be many people who would rush to give up their elixir building in exchange for alchemy. However, when the people in the hall heard that the top 16 would have the opportunity to see the alchemy knowledge of the previous generations of alchemists in the Northern Alliance, the cultivators in the hall all cheered. Lu Ping was also excited. Elixir building was just a way to increase one's foundation. Although the insights were not as good as the inheritance jade slip, it was still something that could improve an alchemist's alchemy skills immediately. It was an important way for a sect to attract alchemists and strengthen its foundation and accumulation. Hearing that, the alchemists present became even more expectant of the rewards. When Lu Ping raised his hand to look, he saw that the young cultivator behind Red Leaf Laozu also had a fervent expression on his face. The 4 alchemy grandmasters, who represented the 4 great sects of the East Sea, also had looks of astonishment on their faces. Clearly, they did not expect that the Northern Alliance would be so generous to open up the elixir building. As one of the 5 great sects of the East Sea, the Northern Alliance had tens of thousands of years of heritage. There was no need to doubt the accumulation of the elixir building. It was something that every alchemist dreamed of. Li Maolin, who was beside him, introduced, "This is Master Ji Yaoyuan. Not only is her alchemy famous in East Sea, but her heaven-splitting swordsmanship is also one of the few core forging masters in East Sea. It is said that this immortal has cultivated a magical power called Gunmetal Dharma Eye. I wonder if it is the same as just now." Although Immortal Ji Yaoyuan was asking Immortal Qin a question, her eyes were looking at Hongye Laozu. Clearly, Ziyue Cave Heaven was an extremely special place in the Northern Alliance. Whether it was opened or not was not up to Immortal Qin. Skyrend and the Northern Alliance had always been on good terms. Immortal Ji Yaoyuan knew about Ziyue Cave Heaven. It was understandable for other immortal masters to know about it. However, when they heard that Ziyue Cave Heaven was an important place of inheritance in the Northern Alliance, they all looked at Hongye Laozu in shock. After hearing Immortal Ji Yaoyuan's words, all the alchemists in the hall knew about Ziyue Cave Heaven's position in the Northern Alliance. Lu Ping frowned slightly. Places of inheritance like this should exist in all the major sects, and there should be more than one. Lu Ping vaguely heard from second senior sister Li Xuanru that there was also a similar place of inheritance in Jinling. However, how could the Northern Alliance make such a place public, let alone let people enter it to choose treasures? The publicly recognized places of inheritance in the sects were naturally the Sutra Depository, and the like. However, a sect had thousands of years to tens of thousands of years of inheritance accumulation.
Naturally, they would not put all their eggs in one basket. Therefore, there were many secret places of inheritance in the sects to prevent the sect from declining or encountering a powerful enemy. They could ensure that the sect could pass on the torch and make a comeback. There were naturally many cultivators who had the same question as Lu Ping. Everyone looked at Hongye Laozu, intending to listen to his explanation. However, Hongye Laozu's mind was elsewhere. He had no intention of giving any explanation. Everyone could only look at Immortal Qin. Immortal Qin obviously knew that the opening of such a place of inheritance would cause everyone to speculate. However, he was also confused at the moment. When Immortal Hongye explained to him, he did not mention the reason. Immortal Qin coughed and turned a blind eye to the cultivator's expectant eyes. He continued, "As for the top 4 and the champion of this year's pill gathering, our Northern Alliance's spiritual masters and martial uncle Hongye will discuss and reward each alchemist according to their specific circumstances." The Northern Alliance's reward measures for this pill gathering that Immortal Qin had announced not only caused a lot of discussion among the cultivators in the hall, but even the alchemy masters of the 4 great sects were frowning.